Welcome in, welcome in. How are we doing?
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. I'm hungry. I need to order food.
Well, I ate when Joe was wrapping up. I was like, I gotta eat before I go live. So I ran into the kitchen and made me some food real quick, and I was eating during the end of his live. So yeah, and I made a fresh pot of coffee, so I gotta go grab a cup in just a second. It's almost ready. Order you some food. What are you gonna order?
I'm not sure, but you just reminded me I left the kettle on that whole time I was talking to Samsung. I'll be right back.
Oh,
Wait.
all right. You go right ahead. Hey, Forrest, thank you for coming in. I know you've been a busy day for you modding, right? I appreciate you so much for being here. Um, Long time no see there, Joe. I don't. I guess he can hear me. Welcome in, everybody. We'll give everybody a few minutes to get in here before we get started. Um,
Oh,
I know my
dang, I'm
notification.
about to strangle me a dog. Ugh.
Aw.
Dude,
Do what?
are you good?
You know I love dogs, but dang.
Oh, they were barking. He's got a
Cons-
barker in the house.
like constantly, and like she has this bark that is like it's an alert bark, so it like echoes
Mhm.
for like 3 blocks around the neighborhood, and
What does she
especially
have?
through the house.
Is it separation anxiety? Are the owners not
No, no,
there?
no. It's an alert. It's an alert bark. Like every single freaking strange noise that happens, every leaf that blows across the lawn, the
No, I
yard.
can't. I can't
I
hear
mean,
that.
just.
Mm.
What
I'm
kind of
like,
dog
no.
is it?
She's a mix. She's like a shepherd mix.
Oh, yeah, my dog barely barks. Only when there's really something going down.
Yeah,
And she's so cool. I teach her to watch. I have a way with animals, but I teach my dog. And she's my son's dog, but she thinks she's mine. After
yeah.
my last one passed, she was 14. I did like I was done having animals. I thought.
My son has a shepherd lab mix, about a year old, and it's the same way, Joe. It alerts every single time somebody, UPS drops off a package, Amazon, like she goes nuts. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Like sometimes even when I just open my freaking bedroom door to come out, she's like, "Roar, roar, roar, roar."
Oh
No,
yeah.
It is.
you know me. You know me. I'm
Maybe she
here.
needs one of those, those hug kind of blankets or something. Maybe that'll calm her down.
Or maybe a fire
V.
hose.
Fire hose, muzzle.
Y'all look at V's comment. My God, I love her.
I'm doing a
She
Brian
says,
Koberger.
if I'm not typing for a bit, it's because I'm doing a Brian Koberger and putting on some latex gloves. Let's hope the
Uh-oh.
FBI doesn't roll up. I think it
Oh
will
no,
be.
V's probably
Up
putting
to no
plastic
good.
bottles. She's probably putting plastic bottles in Ziploc bags because that's so, environmentally responsible.
Yeah. Welcome in, Sinead, V, Forrest again. Thank you for being here. You had a busy morning, like I said. Firefly, thank you all for joining us, and Dolphin as well. Um, we, so you had a good live this morning, Joe.
That was an interesting trip down the Melanie Gibb part 2, and then we're gonna do part 2 on Friday. Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
good
them
live.
people. Yeah, though. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I know so much about all of them already. I just like almost couldn't with that lady. I wanted to reach through the phone and just, Melanie, what are you doing?
Yeah, I was
So,
good for like the first 2 minutes. I'm like, oh, she seems genuine. She seems like she's changed her story a little bit, and then boom, we fell off the cliff. Like we ran and jumped off the cliff.
hmm
Yeah, it's gonna be cool
what?
when Megan and Kresha come into town though, because I mean we're just gonna do like casual meets. Like we don't have anything specific planned, and maybe I'll never meet them. I don't know because we haven't made any specific plans, but they are planning on coming in town for the trial. So
Yeah.
their viewpoint is always a unique perspective that's going to be cool.
Oh yeah. That went south quickly, didn't it, Joe? That's for us. Oh man. So I don't know if you guys. We were talking yesterday on my live. I didn't realize there was a Karen Reed hearing happening.
Me
And
either.
so after the live, I caught it and I was like, whoa. And what do they call that judge over there? They call her Auntie Bev, I guess. Is that her nickname?
Mhm.
I don't usually, I don't give judges nicknames. I feel like I'm a grown up and I'm going to give them respect whether I don't like them or not. Even Gull, I called her Judge Gull. So was it Canoni? Is that her last name? Judge C. I'll call her that. I'm not going to call some lady I don't know my auntie. I don't even say auntie in real life. My aunts are my aunts. But uh, so yeah, I don't know much about that judge. I do know I found out some interesting stuff though researching the case late last night, and that I didn't know because I didn't watch that first trial. It was just such a damn hot mess. I really wanted no part of it, especially when social media gets super messy. And but now I'm interested. And something happened in that hearing yesterday that caused that judge to become visibly upset, and she canceled the rest of the hearing.
And I'm dying to know what it is. I can't imagine.
Well,
It's
I got a little bit. We got a little information about it. So
oh,
it,
okay.
yeah, I was like, what's going on here? What's happening? And then so I was like, I got to figure this out. I attempted to watch an attorney talk about it, and I couldn't follow along. So I went and found another attorney talking about it, and I was like, she made a little more sense about it. And then I found some news clips to watch. So I was like, I'm
Oh,
down with
awesome.
that.
Okay.
Somebody
Okay.
to give us something to explain it. Look at
It's
there.
another extremely polarizing case. I don't know why,
Yes.
but yeah. So it always
Yes.
makes for an interesting review.
Well, you know, people like to pick sides.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. I think I saw somebody was doing a live this morning about just that, not disagreeing with each other or something, and then the way it all happens. But I don't. I'm walking into this Karen Reed thing completely open minded on the judge, on the prosecution, on the defense, on everything because I don't want to hear nothing about no dumb turtle boy. I don't. That's what really turned me off before. I don't know what. I just don't want to hear it. I only facts of the case. If he comes up in a document, fine. But if he comes up in court, fine. But I'm not here to talk about him. You know what I mean? That's why I avoided that case to begin with. Um, and so I'm just trying to keep an open mind about it. But that doesn't mean I think Karen Reed's guilty of anything.
Yeah.
Honestly have no clue. I've seen the pictures of what the experts believe may or may not have happened from both sides. I did follow it loosely, I guess you could say. I have my thoughts about it, and I always thought to myself, you know what? If she did hit him, it, in my
It's an
mind, it was
accident.
an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe
Exactly.
she
That's it.
didn't. Yeah,
Even if she
Sinead has
did
been.
hit him, how are they making it
Yeah,
murder? I don't understand that
exactly.
jump.
Exactly. It didn't make sense, did it? That they would
Mm-mm.
go that far with it. But I think as we look into things a little more, we might see some stuff that might might lend itself as to why. Where did it go,
Mhm.
Sinead? So Sinead, you have been a member for a month now. Um, she's as a lead investigator, and her message is, we need to get members for Joe. What we got to do? Hmm.
I have no idea how that works. Like what?
Do you
What? I
have
don't know.
all that turned on your channel?
I
And familiars, and they'll tell you what you can and can't do, what you're eligible for. You have to have you reach certain levels and you become eligible for more and more and more. So that's Joe
what?
has to
I
go.
think 1,000. I think 1,000 subs is the next goal. So I'm at like 720 ish. So I need like another 280.
Your
Hmm.
watch hours. I had members before. 1,000 subs is one thing, but you can still do it before that. But you got to get your watch hours up, and there's just all kinds of back end stuff to it. And I spend a lot of time in the YouTube studio learning, right, and familiarizing myself with everything. And I'm still learning as I go. But yeah, there's a lot of things you have to manually turn on back there and turn off and different things. So maybe he'll get it all figured out, and we can get him some members going over there.
Oh,
Um,
I did hear
you're
that
able
dog.
to get.
Can you hear that? Can you hear that?
I did hear that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I never did before, but yeah. Well, so like if you make shorts and things like that, does that help, or only if they get views? And
Well,
If you,
there's a couple of different metrics you have to meet, and it's either watch hours on non-shorts
Mhm.
or it's the number of shorts. And I don't do shorts,
you
so
you don't
it's
you don't get your watch hours up by shorts. The shorts
Okay.
help.
right.
Shorts help, and now because I do make shorts. I always have because they're fun. I enjoy editing and things like that with the videos. I've always played around with it.
Yeah.
I got to get more consistent with doing it. I've got shorts that's gotten tons of views. I've got shorts that's gotten hardly any views. It just depends on the
I just
subject.
thought, like, if somebody sees your shorts and they like your shorts, then they might be, oh, okay, let me check them out. Like, check that out
It
live or
does
something.
do
I don't know.
well.
I have no
If they
idea.
see me in
But-
my gym shorts, they're
Oh
probably
no,
gonna
no,
like
not
that.
in your shorts. You never know. It depends on what your
Oh, yeah.
audience is you're looking for.
Right?
Yeah, are you you guys? Yeah, there's just a lot. I don't study all that metric stuff. I just get out here and start doing me, and I'll drop little. And my videos aren't anything special. Not yet. I'm trying to get better at that. I've only done one like where I talk in a video. So I'm learning as I go and getting more comfortable with it. You know what I'm saying? So, but I feel like if I drop videos or shorts, that is really geared toward my community.
You're talking about dropping your shorts.
I'm your short. Oh, goodness.
No, that's only for some. No, I don't. I'm not. That
You'll definitely get viewers that way.
Right?
Yeah, it ain't the kind of viewers I want. Let me tell you. But yeah, I just it's more geared toward the community can see, but it helps you also expose yourself to other people who may not know about you yet.
Yeah.
So that's why I am trying to get better at doing more of them, clipping things and doing the shorts because, but I just noticed lately there's not a lot of true crime shorts as there used to be. I feel like, unless my algorithm's messed up, you know what I mean? Because I was watching some craft stuff, and now I'm like being fed a bunch of that shit. So I'm like, I got to get back to where I get, I want to have a balanced algorithm. I don't understand that algorithm thing anyway. I mean, I do, but I don't care to. I'm at a point where I'm going to go live when I feel like it. I'll drop what I feel like dropping. If people tune in, they tune in, and if they like it, they like it, right?
Yep.
What else can you do?
Yeah.
That's all you can do, and I do appreciate everybody who is here with me and that wants to come in and listen to what we share. But we had because we did get into a little bit of that Karen Reed yesterday. But before we start getting into that, I want to do one case update on the Gabby Petito case again. But there was like I was telling you earlier, Joe, there was a news piece I ran across this morning. And the only reason I really want to show this news clip is I didn't even watch the whole thing yet. I'm going to give you guys a trigger warning. It's hard to watch but I'm doing it because people have got to start watching for red flags, especially where children are concerned. Kids can only fend for themselves for so long. They count on adults, and when the adults in their lives completely fail them, and then the neighbors don't even notice anything amiss, it's like, how did you not notice this shit was going on, and why did it take so darn long for someone to act? And you guys will see what I mean. I'm only doing it because I want people to be aware of what's going on around them, and maybe some of these children can be saved from the horrible conditions they have to go through. So these kids were found abandoned in a house full of garbage where their mother had left them for years. And you'll see. So let's get started.
Years?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
jeez.
Yeah.
He's never seen a scenario so dire, one that would be deplorable and intolerable even for an animal. You better brace yourself. And I'll say that again in case you think I'm exaggerating. Brace yourself. This is a bad one. The pictures deserve a graphic warning. This story came to light at the end of last week in a Detroit suburb of Pontiac, Michigan. Oakland County Sheriff's deputies found 3 children in this house in these conditions: a 15-year-old boy and 2 girls aged 12 and 13. Their mother had left them in that home to fend for themselves almost
Oh my God.
Wow.
5 years ago, and 7. That fact alone is mind-boggling, but so is this. They existed on weekly drop-offs of food from Instacart and DoorDash. But towards the end of that 5-year ordeal, the food that was dropped off ended up being a loaf of bread. Obviously, somebody also was paying the rent on that house until they stopped. That happened last October. And it was therefore the landlord who called the sheriff's office for a welfare check. By then, of course, those children's welfare was all but non-existent. Their house was overrun with garbage and feces and mold. Their clothes were filthy. Their hair was matted. And just so you know the extent of the neglect, their toenails were so long they could barely walk. Their last delivery of anything related to personal hygiene was a half-decade ago and was only a box of trash bags, some gloves, and a can of air freshener. 5 years ago. They hadn't been to school since 2020, and the 2 girls
Yeah.
apparently hadn't been outside that house in custody, as she should be. But it begs the question, where was everybody else? Where was the father? Where were the schools? What about the neighbors?
Yeah, where was everybody else? Did
Yes.
the neighbors did the neighbors not know these kids were alone in that house and never saw adults come or go? Do you just not look out your window? Do you not look around your Jesus, I don't understand it. You know? That's crazy.
How could this nightmare have gone on for so long? Joining me now is the Oakland County Sheriff, Michael Bouchard. Sheriff, thank you so much for being here. I literally can't even believe, as I read those details again, that I'm reading fact. How are the children right now, and where are they?
So we took them immediately out of the home once we discovered them, took them to medical care, and then involved our Child Protective Services. And they have been placed temporarily with relatives that were unaware of what was going on. And we have a lot more scheduled for them this week. We've got a much more detailed health and mental health examination of them. We've already done a kind of a psychological question kind of thing with a care house, kit gloves treatment to try to figure out what they're feeling, what they know, things like that. Thankfully, they're responding very well. Our detectives said when they saw them at the care house interview like that, the girls were actually hiding in a locked bathroom.
How is their development, given the fact that this is almost half their life? They've lived alone as young children with no adult care. I mean, and just no love.
Yeah, it's horrendous. It's really difficult to wrap your head around this case. I've been in this business a very long time and seen horrific things, horrific murders, horrific child abuse. But this is a terrible one that was magnified by how long it went on over the period of years to not have an adult or any love or any structure, any education, none of that. And so, it's just really difficult to wrap your head around. But we're doing everything we can to set them up on a better path. The community has responded and filled our sheriff's office with clothing for them, and they're making donations. We're going to set us to try to get them, a fund for their health, both physical and mental health, and maybe some educational funds set aside for them.
Sheriff, the obvious question is, you've arrested the mother. I understand you can't reveal her name because she's talking. Why on earth would anyone do this?
Yeah, she's been talking to our investigators, but so far no reason for this. And it's one of those things. How do you even come up with a reason for this? When you watch the television ads showing dogs and cats in a deplorable condition that evoke that heartstring where you want to contribute to them, imagine that times 10 and then do it over a period of years to children. So it's really difficult to kind of wrap your arms around this. But we're going to do everything we can to wrap our arms around those kids and to make sure, quite frankly, that this mother is held accountable.
Thanks for watching.
She needs to be more than held accountable at this point,
Oh my God.
right? And it's just like, pay attention. How, like, I'm with you guys. The comment there. How did the neighbors not know? How did the family not know?
Because somebody had to know how long were the kids living there before they were left alone. Like somebody must have known the kids were there. Schools must have known, wondered where are the kids.
Yeah. I mean, if
Makes
my
you wonder
sister,
what
I mean,
kind of lifestyle were they living before they were left alone? Because did they not know to ask for help? Because how do you live in that?
well, they were-
I mean, because the oldest one was 15, right?
Right,
this
that's what I'm saying. So
Why wouldn't that child walk outside and go to the neighbors or something?
that's what I'm saying. I've got a question
Jesus.
there. I'm not trying to blame the kids. I'm just saying,
No, I know.
why wouldn't you ask for help?
you go back to the kids. Remember the kids that the couple had all the kids locked in the house for years, and one finally snuck out, and was, what was their last name? Oh my God, he's the weirdo. He had the weird looking haircut. Oh God, the three of us looked at that case before. When these kids were so young, when they got left, sometimes they'd grow up and maybe their mentality wasn't fully to full 15-year-old capacity.
Right.
You
That's
know,
what I'm thinking.
if they were they threatened ever, don't go outside.
Probably
Better
threatened. Yep, that's it too.
better not go tell anybody that I've left you there. I'm sending you food. You better, all these things. And I've always said this, even going back to, like Dolphin mentioned, another case where a lady, these kids, they're not the only kids in America this is happening to right now today.
No, that's scary.
It is scary. And the amount of people that just will turn are willing to just ignore
Yep.
it or pretend they never saw anything. I can't. The house kind of looking abandoned and run down, and I know there was kids in there, and I'm watching these deliveries of food come and go, but never saw a parent. I'm going to knock on that door.
Yeah, you never saw the kid go to the curb waiting on a school bus or whatever. I mean, yeah.
Right. You just saw
Oh,
them
God.
DoorDash order for their loaf of bread, but you never saw them come outside to play or go to school. You never saw a parent come or go. I'm going to knock on that door. May not be nothing going down nefarious, but I'm going to go check, especially if it's kids, and probably only if it's kids. My mom was the kind that took in all of our friends. If they had an issue at home or whatever, my mom took those kids. In the same way, I don't normally cover any kind of child abuse cases because I get so enraged with them because I'm called for. But when I saw that this morning, I was like, where were all the people? Neighbors, family, the school,
How did they catch them again? I'm sorry. I got so fucking mad.
What alerted them to
I
it?
missed that. Wow.
The landlord finally alerted for a welfare check because at some point she finally stopped paying the
Stop
rent.
paying the rent. Okay.
Oh, right.
Yes, she finally
Well,
stopped
I mean,
paying the rent.
on one bright side, at least the kids are okay. I mean, maybe not mentally, but they're alive.
At least they're alive. Finally, they were found, and they didn't, starve to death in that house or contract any sort of disease. We don't know. Did they contract any sort of that? So you sent them a can of air freshener. I mean, did they say, hey, Mom, did they have a phone where she could call them sometimes? Did they say, hey, Mom, the house stinks? I'll send you some garbage bags and air freshener. What the hell, lady? Let me find.
Not trying to blame the C word, I don't know if you can't say that word on
You can say it. It depends. No, you've been told by another channel you can't say that word because of the way they were talking about it. You are.
I just wonder if the time is anything to do with that. When when everybody was on lockdown, if that's when it started.
Is
And
that
then
when
it
she
just,
went off and left them and then decided she
and
was
then,
actually back?
you
I
know what
thought
I
you were
mean?
gonna say a different C word.
Oh no, well, I was like,
What is,
that was laughable too,
I was like, what does that have to do
Wait,
with this?
I'm thinking of a different word.
I just
That's
wondered, like, is that what started it off? They were isolated because of that. I mean, not to make excuses for her, but
No, thanks for making me
timing.
laugh, girl, because I was about to
You're-
cry over
oh,
here.
anytime.
Oh,
Jeez.
I'm sorry, Norman. I know. No, right. I mean, I
I
don't
couldn't
know.
even look at that anymore.
I don't
Mm,
know what possessed the lady to run off and leave her kids.
yeah,
Except for the fact she just didn't want them anymore and what didn't
could
she
be.
was
Yeah,
probably out doing her drugs. You can't tell me this was a normal lady with a normal functioning life and job who was not on
Right.
drugs or alcohol.
Well, and if she's 34 now, that means she was like a teenage mother. So
Yes.
what gets
she
me?
just, yeah, who knows? Yeah.
What
God.
gets me is that they were doing daily DoorDash deliveries and stuff. That's expensive. That's not cheap. I
Yeah.
mean, would have been cheaper to
Hmm.
buy groceries and drop them off. Like, you know what I
Instacart
mean?
and DoorDash, then eventually it came down to just a loaf of bread.
Oh, yeah, okay. Got too
And then
expensive.
yeah, and she was probably buying one McDonald's meal to y'all share it.
Mm.
What do you reckon the tip was on a loaf of bread?
Oh, man.
She was probably one of those that didn't tip. I'll be honest. You don't not everybody tips on DoorDash. And when I was a DoorDash driver, if you wanted me to drive a specific amount of miles, and
Better offer a tip. Yep.
I saw how low that tip was, guess what's fixing to happen? I'm gonna sit right to drive 10 miles to bring you something for no tip. Sorry, get out and go get it your damn self. I've had women order DoorDash for me that literally took me 5 minutes to get to their house, and it happened so many times, and it's amazing. I had one I went up to, and there was a note on the mat, and it said, "This is for you, DoorDash driver." And when I picked it up and I opened it, there were two $20 bills in there on top of the $10 tips she gave me. And she said, "You literally just saved my life. I appreciate you."
Wow.
I was like, dang, well, thank you, lady. And I've had women tip me an extra $100 when I get there, when I went and did all that grocery shopping for her during the holidays when her kids were all sick, and I had to keep calling her because they didn't have this and didn't have that. I need to adjust things for her, and she just went out of her way to thank me. But there are
Oh,
people
yeah.
out there who won't tip at all. I'm not coming to your house if you're not going to tip me, because I'm working. DoorDash doesn't pay
Yeah,
me
that's
a whole
just
lot.
scuzzy.
Yeah.
I
You
tip
know.
extra in the rain and,
Exactly.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah.
super heavy orders and
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. DoorDash does not pay. You get a little bit of a base pay, and then that tip is what you rely on. So, yeah, I just want, it's like, with the Jen Soto story, like, people need to look for these damn red flags. It's so infuriating that people are so willing to turn a blind eye these days, or to pretend something's not happening, or they tell themselves or convince themselves, well, that's not what I think it is. You know what I mean? Oh goodness. Lisa, you saw it late last night? Yeah, it was sad. When I first saw it, Dolphin, this morning, I was like, maybe that's what got me wound up this morning. I don't know.
I don't know. People, I'm sorry. I feel like, am I the only person who took the sex education class that we had to have in sixth grade or
No, we
whatever?
did. Yeah, I did.
Seriously. And, was like, okay, I knew how to keep my legs closed. Or,
Exactly.
when I got
Or
older,
you knew how to
get
keep them
some birth
closed or
control.
cover up.
Oh, I
Yeah.
got to tell you what my grandmother always said. She told my sister, she never told me this, but she's like, here's the best birth control. She gave her a quarter, and she's like, Grandma, how's this birth
Keep it
control?
between your
Keep
knees.
it between your knees. Keep it. That's so funny.
Oh my gosh. Don't let them boys
took
pry
that-
the legs open, girls. Yeah,
I took that class too, and I know how to keep my legs closed.
you.
That's good.
We bet
Good
you
for
do.
you, Joe. But I mean,
Joe,
I'm sorry. Just these women that are like super young and just squirting
mhm.
out babies like a
Oh.
litter, I mean, a puppies. I
Yes,
mean, just stop. It's a
exactly.
human being, that you just have
Mhm.
and just fucking forget about it and walk away. I cannot see that,
I think
I
some
don't
of them
have
do it for
kids,
the
but I
money.
got this beagle right
Just,
here and
I
I
get
will
it.
kill for this dog. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So
Right.
I don't see that. And I mean, I even look at other people's kids, when I go up and down the street, I see the kids,
Yeah,
waiting on the corner for the school bus, or, they wave or whatever. I'm always even looking out for other people's kids, you
exactly.
know, because I would jump in front of a car even for somebody else's kid to save somebody else's. Oh man, kids and animals, man, oh,
Yeah,
that's my
yeah,
hard line,
yeah, exactly.
That
Mine
was the
too.
worst thing I've ever seen.
And it is. And it's just so appalling. But there's so many people who don't care in this world, and then I'm just going to mind my business. I'm not getting involved. Um, yeah, the who was that? Let's see. Wondering about the dad. Ashley had wondered where the father was, but there was no mention of the father. There,
Or
probably
grandparents,
these
aunts and
kids may
uncles,
not even
somebody. They better put some protection on that heifer because if they
have
have to
they may
drag her
not have all
into
had
it,
the same father.
ooh,
Let's be honest.
I was gonna say, yeah. Who
Hmm.
knows?
I
It
mean,
could be different
they
fathers.
may
Could
not even
be.
be aware.
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
My
Oh
my
yeah.
brother-in-law is extremely socially liberal, and I've leaned that way also, but he's like way more than me, and he believes that teenage women should have birth control forced upon them until we can decide whether or not they're old enough to be responsible to have children. I mean, and then it's just obviously it's just a theoretical conversation, but
Right.
I mean there definitely are some people, women and men both, who are not meant to be parents, who are not
And I
responsible
think
enough
if
to be
you're a
parent.
responsible human being, when your children become of age, you sit down and start having talks with them about
Hmm.
sex openly and honestly.
Yeah, there's a reason none of my children
Don't think I haven't
had.
told my 18-year-old he better
Yeah.
cover up.
Yep. There's a
Yeah.
reason none of my boys procreated until they were over the age of 30, and right now it's at
Mm-hmm.
2.5, and I'm okay with that. They became responsible adults first, and they're being responsible adults now. But yeah, there's a reason.
Yeah, my kids didn't have kids till they were in their 20s. I didn't either. My sister was not the same. She started as a teenager. I couldn't imagine it, right? And my mom talked to her and talked to her and did everything she could. And she didn't realize my sister was active. I'll just put it that way. She really she was a bad kid. She was not a bad kid. She was a sneaky kid. But she's fine now and all that good stuff. But she was a great mom. But I couldn't imagine having kids that young, but I sit down and have these conversations with my kids. You got to be prepared to take care of it. My mother always told her three daughters, if you're woman enough to lay there
Hmm.
and conceive that
I've heard
child,
that.
you
Yep.
better be a woman enough to raise her. I will not raise that baby for you unless something happens to you, but I will be here to help you, right? You're going to raise it. Um, Birth control can F some women up, but not all can take it. That's true, but there are other ways to avoid pregnancies. Let's told you have another one, you could die because he was 3 months early. Trust me, there are plenty of other ways besides popping a pill down your throat to stop having a baby. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Just like these earlier today when we were in Joe's about these women with all these depressions and hurting their kids. Stop it. When you feel yourself becoming overwhelmed with your own children, call your mom, call your aunt, call your granny, call your cousin, call the state. Call somebody. Come help me. I need it. These kids are not going to deserve what I'm about to do to them. I'm so tired of it in society. We started all this, well, mental health, mental health. Yeah, I get it. I got it. But I'm very proactive to take care of my own mental health. I'm not going to sit around and wait for something bad to happen or someone to tell me I should have went and got help. and that's just me.
Yeah. And you know what? I think extended families too, extended family members need to step up too because,
Yep,
yeah, great, you're the grandmother and right, you've already raised your kids and everything, but still at least check in, keep an eye, right? On
exactly,
Gosh,
on,
yes.
your daughter, right, to make sure she's raising her kids right and
exactly.
doing right because you end up with situations like Madeline Soto, right?
Yep,
It's like because
yeah.
that fool she had for a mother,
If
Jesus, Mm.
trust me, if I thought for 1 second my daughter was
Mhm.
all
My
over it,
mom would have been
and
too. Yep.
yeah, and I fortunately don't have that, to worry about that stuff because they're my both of my kids are amazing parents, but um, do I think they spoil their kids a little much sometimes? Yeah, but that's their children. You know what I mean? I'll spoil them when they come to my house, but they're good parents. But if I thought for 1 second my babies were being abused or neglected, I'm coming to get my baby. All there is to it, you know. And then we're gonna figure out why you're doing this to this baby because it's not right.
Oh my God,
Um,
yes. So I'm
yeah.
super protective over my kids and my grandson. Yep.
Yes, exactly. And I think a majority of us are. I'd hate to think that we're becoming a society where more and more and more of these type parents exist versus good parents. You know, it's just appalling to me that nobody ever noticed these kids were living in those conditions. And the oldest one at 15, if he was 9 at the time this started, did no one realize this kid wasn't going to school anymore? The school never, I'm not blaming the school. They got a lot of kids in the school. They can't keep track of everybody. They could have thought he moved, but there would have been transfer
Exactly. Yeah.
papers. Well, there would have been
That's,
transfer
that's
papers.
true. Yeah.
So
I think it's the same way between the school and like extended family because at some point in time you have family members that stop communicating with you, right? Like I have family members that I don't know what's going on with their kids in school. I don't know. My brother has 8 kids and I have no idea. I assume that he's doing a good job and all his kids are going to school and participating in sports and we text on a regular basis. But if at any time he stopped texting me, I would have no way to know what's going on in their life. And it's kind of, I think, the same way with schools. Like what if a school sent out a resource officer like early on? Like within 30 days of that the oldest one not showing up for school. What if they sent out a resource officer, they knocked on the door, they didn't get a response? What is their protocol after that? Are they supposed to send out a police officer for a wellness check?
no,
I,
You
they
would
could
I
hope
turn
don't
no,
know.
so.
no, no, no. They make phone calls then to Department of Children's Services. That's a lot of times what happens when teachers suspect
Hmm.
abuse or
Yeah.
see signs of it. They report that to DCF, and I'm just saying
They
that
have to.
it's
They're
something.
required to. They're
Yeah,
required
they are
to. I mean,
required to. Uh-huh. And
now there's got
Lisa,
to be some way to keep track of kids because what about
mhm.
like kids that decide to be, or parents decide to homeschool their kids? They must have to notify the
Oh, there's a
county or
criteria.
something.
They do.
Right. You
They have a
can't just
follow-up. They have
disappear from
teachers.
the system.
They
So,
have to meet with in Florida, okay,
mhm.
they have to meet with certain teachers, and these kids are required to be tested by the state and all of these things to make sure you are homeschooling your children up
Mhm.
on the protocol. And we're about to see something on this Gabby Petito case. Florida is leading the way in protecting victims' rights, and I can't scream that loud enough because I'm so over people trampling over the victims' rights compared to defendants' rights. Like I will continue to state, they are required and do deserve their basic constitutional rights if they are. But when they start going overboard, like we see some of these people doing lately with their defense teams, asking for this and asking for that, and all this special treatment bullshit, that I can't get behind all that extra stuff. Quit being so extra. Remember what you did or allegedly did to somebody. Um, so Florida had passed the law after Gannon that is now protecting Maddie. Florida has also enacted the Gabby Petito Act. Um, and you guys recall that we mentioned yesterday that her family, they did the Netflix special. I'm going to pull up a new piece that I saw this morning of her family talking again, and then I'll show you a little bit about the Florida law before we jump into this. Karen, this stuff's not long, and then we'll get into that Karen Read stuff, because boy, that stuff's crazy right there. And I do need to still do a lot of research on it. There's a lot I don't know about Karen Read case, and I'm going to try to base it all in fact and not rumor. I've had a lot of comments come back on my Idaho 4 content lately, trying to tell me I was wrong.
I bet. I bet.
Or, well,
no matter what you say, somebody's going to complain.
Well, they're still watching the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so and so this said this, and so. Well, bring me the receipt, baby, and we'll talk about it. Because when I tell y'all I know all that's went on in Idaho, I'm not making that up. I just don't choose to talk about that stuff, you know. So it's just what it is. It is what it is. There we go.
There were so many other people out there putting her story out there, and we wanted to make sure we could use our voices and say it in our way.
To the world, Gabrielle Petito was the center of a haunting true crime case, but to her loved ones, she was just Gabby.
This was an opportunity for Gabby to be seen as a person and not just the headline or
her version of the perfect life, traveling the country with her new fiance, as documented on her YouTube channel.
Hello, and good morning.
She was easy in terms of just going with the flow. She was as easygoing as it could be. It really was.
Kindness is contagious, and Gabby was contagious. That's who she was.
How their journey back in 2021 took such a dark turn, now coming into focus.
Gabby Petito never goes outside.
It's a case that captivated the internet.
Me and Brian just got up and got ready, made the bed in the tent.
An aspiring social media influencer suddenly vanishes, and soon after, her fiance disappears too. Then, about a week after being reported missing,
human remains were discovered, consistent with the description.
Remains consistent of your daughter. I remember I was crying, and I said, you have to be sure, I have to be sure if I'm making this phone call. They showed me pictures, and I confirmed it was our daughter.
Her fiance, Brian Laundrie, later admitting to the unspeakable crime. Today, Gabby's parents are piecing together the final weeks of her life. Gabby's mom, Nicole, and her husband, Jim, and Gabby's dad, Joe, and his wife, Tara, remembering Gabby's final moments.
When they set out on that adventure, what did you say to her before she left? Do you remember?
Yeah, and I always say this because I was absolutely the luckiest one. I got to give her a hug goodbye, and it was the most amazing squeezy hug, and she was crying. And I said, "Why are you crying?" And she was like, "I don't know." And I just was like, maybe she's just so excited. I cherished that moment. That was the last time I had her in my arms.
The family bravely sharing the closest held memories of Gabby's life and the previously unknown details behind her horrific death in the new Netflix docuseries American Murder, Gabby Petito.
The happiest people on social media usually have the darkest skeletons in their closet.
Her parents now on a mission to raise awareness and change laws around domestic violence, releasing never-before-seen conversations between Gabby and Brian, including this text she sent him. "Don't try to control me because it only makes me mad. I love you so much, but it's the way you speak to me that hurts me the most." They also found a letter Gabby wrote, giving them a glimpse into what was really going on in that relationship.
Brian, you know how much I love you. Just please stop crying and stop calling me names. You in pain is killing me.
But at the time, her family says they didn't know the two were having any problems.
Were there any red flags that this was coming?
anything that you didn't notice that you feel like?
Yes, there were, but we didn't notice them at the time. Just growing up, you know, there was the age-old, you don't beat your partner, you're not an abuser type of scenario. And that's just not the case when it comes to domestic violence. And knowing what we know now, we see that progression that happened. Alienation of friends and family.
Isolate.
Morning yoga.
Gabby and Brian were part of the so-called van life trend of social influencers, driving across the country, documenting their road trip on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
We are right outside Capitol Reef right now in a free dispersed camp spot.
They left New York July 2nd, their social media accounts soon filling up with pictures and videos of their travels over the following weeks.
I looked at Brian and I said, you better take good care of her, keep her safe. And he was like, I will.
For a while, Gabby and Brian's trip seemed to be going well, but newly uncovered video featured in the documentary seemed to show tension growing between the couple.
We have this nice big open floor for you to keep your dirty feet.
Behind the scenes, Gabby and Brian would get into arguments.
Okay, no, turn it back. Turn the remote.
At some point, did she seem like maybe the thing with her and Brian wasn't working out on this trip?
Well, there was the incident in Moab.
Yeah, that day was a pivotal.
The girl who was slapping her. Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off.
On August 12, 2021, a random stranger calling 911 after seeing Gabby and Brian fighting. Police in Moab, Utah pulled the couple over near the entrance to Arches National Park.
What's going on? How come you're crying?
I'm sorry, we've just been fighting this morning. Some personal issues.
The officers talking to Brian and Gabby separately.
If you wanted to be with her again tomorrow,
Take your radio.
did you get hit in the face? Kind of looks like something like hit you in the face. How far do you want to go with this?
It's interesting watching it, the whole of that video, because you hear that discussion between the officers.
Yeah. And what does he say at the end?
You know why the domestic assault code is there. It's there to protect people, especially the reason why they don't give us discretion on these things is because too many times women who are at risk want to go back to their abuser. They just wanted him to stop and they don't want to have to be separated. They don't want him charged. They don't want him to go to jail. And then they end up getting worse and worse treatment and then they end up getting killed.
He predicted the outcome.
Weeks later, Gabby goes silent. Her parents now revealing their private text at that time to Brian and his family.
I said, hey, have you heard from the kids? I'm concerned about them. I haven't heard from them in a while. That went through, no response. A couple hours later, I said, I hope I have the right number.
10 days go by, no call.
Yeah, Lisa, all that was covered in the piece that we watched that you're talking about over there, hun. It's crazy still. But yeah, they went over all of that.
Calls, texts, or social media posts from Gabby. Her parents report her as a missing person.
Ever-expanding search for Gabby Petito. Tonight, her boyfriend is now a person of interest, but he's not talking. The new pleas for him to share what he knows.
Unbeknownst to Gabby's mother, authorities say Brian had driven Gabby's van back to Florida alone. That day, they reported her missing. Police body camera shows law enforcement.
Gabriel. Well, Brian is here.
Brian is here?
Yeah, and that's all I'm going to say.
The search intensifying when a couple remembered they had seen a white van in the Teton National Forest in Wyoming. Police, who had been searching the entire area, were able to pinpoint within 1,000 feet where Gabby's remains were.
They came in and they said, we found remains consistent of your daughter. I remember I was crying and I said, you have to be sure, I have to be sure if I'm making this phone call. And they did. They showed me pictures, and I confirmed it was our daughter.
I don't know how we did that.
That was the worst phone call of my life.
Gabby's death was ruled a homicide. Brian, now a person of interest. But when police showed up to his parents' house, they discover he isn't there. His parents saying he went on a hike and hasn't come home.
Gabby Petito's boyfriend has apparently disappeared himself.
Weeks into the search for Brian, a breakthrough.
Earlier today, investigators found what appears to be human remains, along with personal items, such as a backpack and notebook belonging to Brian Laundrie.
The FBI says Brian admitted to killing Gabby in this 8-page handwritten letter released by the Laundrie family at Holland, and was in pain, writing in part, "I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it is what she wanted, but I see now all the mistakes I made. I panicked. I was in shock." The coroner's office later confirmed Gabby's cause of death as blunt force injuries to the head and neck with manual strangulation.
It's at the point that you guys found out that Brian had killed himself. Were you focused on that next arrest, or was that just a total surprise to you?
No, I don't feel sorry for what he did to himself. I really don't. That's a choice he made.
You
He
didn't
took our
want
daughter.
him to have a trial and have to sit in front of you guys?
I think a part of us feels like maybe it was a blessing.
We know that he murdered her. We don't know why. We don't need to know why.
He was a liar. Nothing he said in those stories were true. He was a coward to the day that he died. And his family has to know that he took the coward's way out and they raised a coward. I'd use other words, but it's TV and it's just not appropriate.
In the years since Gabby's murder, her family is now hoping her story can help other people too.
I get messages all the time from people saying, I relationship until I saw her story. I saw it, I got help, and I safely got out. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here today.
They've started the Gabby Petito Foundation in her memory, with the goal of supporting organizations that work to locate missing persons and assist victims of domestic violence, and helping to enact change with the passage of the Gabby Petito Act in Florida, which helped reshape how law enforcement handles domestic violence investigations in the state.
Gabby is there every step of the way with us. Every time we go on a conference, we come here. She sends us more of those signs. So I know she's guiding us. I know she's with us, and I can feel her presence.
Our thanks to Eva. For much more on the story, watch.
You know.
I really admire those parents. Like, they're really
Oh yeah.
incredible the way they, started a foundation. They're very like, it's crazy because that's tough.
They're very proactive, and to try to help. Other young women have come forward to say that, seeing Gabby's story has helped them. And if anything,
that's really nice.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, any of these tragic, and some of these young girls don't realize, they think these guys will change, they can change them, and things of that nature. But us women of age know better, right? We might have thought the same thing. I thought that same thing back in the day when I was in my early 20s, but it didn't take me long to figure out that wasn't true. I can't save someone that doesn't
Damn,
want me. Go
We're
ahead.
having some real life discussions today, like some
deep.
Yeah.
discussions.
Yeah, I mean, I can, but this is about the, is that the same piece? No. So I'm just glad, I pulled up the wrong thing. Let me look here. I got this. Anyway, it was about, I thought I had it saved to my, over here on my bookmarks. Oh, I know what I did with it. Anyway, the Gabby Petito Act has been enacted in Florida, and it's called the new law in Florida is the Gabby Petito Act, and it's a law to help move forward in the way we investigate these kind of crimes here. Just like we do have the act now to protect Maddie from her autopsy getting out there. Where did it go? I had it pulled up for you guys. Now it's not showing up. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Share the screen. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will show you what it is. So, under the, this is a domestic violence investigation general bill book. This is what they helped get passed, and it became effective in 2024. And domestic violence investigations citing this act as the Gabby Petito Act, requiring law enforcement officers to complete a lethality assessment for the department to consult with specified entities on the policies, procedures, and training necessary to implement the use of the form, prohibiting law enforcement officers from using the form if they have not received certain training. So they're going to be, officers are going through specific training on how to identify these cases, how to help the victims, instead of saying, well, she doesn't want to press charges, she's going to go back and all of that stuff. Thank you, Pokemon, for dropping that link. She dropped a link for the Gabby Petito Foundation, if you guys want to go check that out. But yeah, this is why I say Florida is leading the way with victims' rights and getting really behind it and becoming proactive with it. And I think more states need to follow suit, just like with our Sunshine Law, where everything's, transparent. I wish Indiana had that law. I wish that a lot of states did. Idaho's doing pretty good with it by giving us all their documents and things of that nature. Because every state has adopted the Sunshine Law, but not to the extent we have it, right?
Well,
And,
you know what my mom used to say?
what?
Wish in one hand and spit in the other and see which one fills up faster.
Well, like I told you, push back in your state. My mom always said that too, but my mom will be the first one to get out here and fight for these rights for these victims.
Oh yeah, we need to, and we need to. That's like
People want to sit back and complain about it, but get out and do something.
Yep,
Write
100%.
to your senators, write to your legislators, write to your local, government. Going on, and if there's these kind of bills in process, get behind them, help support them. That is the only way to get this done. Like I told you guys, there was a time in Florida, the Department of Children and Families was a joke of a system. Not anymore, because when that little girl went missing and we all realized for 2 straight years she was in the state's custody and no one knew where she was, the people of Florida said, no, we're not having this. And now there's been massive change in our system. And, like I said, now we have the laws out to protect the minors like Maddie and Gannon. And we have this Gabby Petito Act in now because, I may or may not always agree with my governor, but being proactive in victims' rights is one thing he is. And that's something I can get behind and will always get behind, because I'm just so sick of it. There's so many channels out there and creators out there and Twitter out there with Delphi and Karen Reed. Not every single case is going to be like that, so we have to carefully watch these cases and how they unfold and see which ones are really having legitimate problems versus made up internet problems. I'll say it like that. So let me pull my playlist back up so we can get on to our next subjects here. But I just wanted to share that with you guys about her parents speaking again, because and about the Petito Act, and just getting behind all of that kind of stuff, is really important. And seeing the red flags, even like their parents they didn't see, and Gabby not being there with them physically, it's harder to recognize the signs, especially if she's hiding it from them. You know what I mean? So a lot of times that's what will happen. And like I had told was talking to Joe one time, you would hear women, "Oh, I was abused, I was beat." When women are actually in an abusive relationship during that time, they don't talk about it to too many people.
Nope.
Because if they
Absolutely
do,
not.
what's going to happen, Firefly, if they do and he finds out, right?
Yep.
They hide the bruises.
And that's why you
they
don't tell
hide
the police.
pain.
So they keep that stuff
That's
to
why when the police
exactly.
come, you don't say
No.
anything. Oh, it's nothing, because you know you're gonna pay for it afterwards. So yeah, it's
Exactly.
it's a
Exactly.
no-win situation. You're trapped, and you could tell
Yep.
when during that police stop, you see the scared look on her face. She knew she was
Yep.
trapped because she wanted to say
She did.
something, but she can't because it's like it's
She
sad.
knew
It's
it.
so sad.
She knew that if she did say, "Yes, he slapped me. Yes, I want this," the second he got a chance to get back to her, she was going to pay for what she did, and she ultimately did pay with her life, and it's just sad that in this day and age, this stuff is still happening in our country, because back there was a time it was never talked about even. It was just accepted. She must have done something to deserve that. No, we got to quit looking at it like that. If she hadn't have popped off at him, he wouldn't have done that to her. If she'd have just listened,
Like Dolphin said, like there needs to be like education, like to girls. Like you never ever put up with that. Like no circumstances.
Well, I'll tell you, there is in Florida. My kid, I think it was 8th grade. He came home and he's like, "Mom, we had a class today. Well, we're going through a series of classes." I was like, "Yeah, what's it about?" He's like, "Learning to identify bad relationships." I said, "What do you mean?"
Nice.
He said, "Learning to recognize the signs of a bad relationship." He said, like, and I'm not going to, like somebody he knew, right? He's like, like that relationship. He's like, "I already know that's a bad relationship, but the school is now talking to us about that stuff, teaching these kids to recognize the signs, trying to teach these boys not to be a certain way." And it's not just boys, girls can do it too. Women can be abusive. We know that, but it's more prevalent in men. So in Florida, they are trying to educate the children about appropriate relationships and healthy relationships, I should say.
Well, that's good. That's a start.
Versus an unhealthy relationship. Start getting into relationships and dating.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I don't know if he's not really brought that. I'll have to ask him. Do they still talk about that in high school? But because like I said, I'm very open with my children, and with especially my youngest. We talk about all kinds of things. You'd be surprised, but and I want that kind of relationship with my kid. But for him to to know that they do. I don't know about other states what they talk about, but I know here in Florida it is talked about in school. So let me check something. I got to check. Did you? Oh. Sorry, guys. I was reading something that was funny to me in the back chat. Yeah. No, his parents didn't handle. His parents knew. Look, Gabby lived in their home. They knew he wasn't being always nice to that girl. They knew it. They had to have known it. They knew their son. And I wouldn't be surprised if his father wasn't the same way with his mother. So learned behavior.
And I can't imagine though, because they did they know she was dead, or did they just suspect?
they
Like
did.
why wouldn't they go to the police? I'm sorry, I know it's your son, but
some people are just going to do whatever they can to protect that their son, and I think they did, and they went to great lengths to try to protect him, even though they knew what he had done. Not my baby's this and that. I can't with those kind of people either. But I think they did know. So I don't know.
This is the case that brought me back to true crime, because when
Was
this
it?
happened, I was watching it all, and they were like looking for Brian Laundrie, and they thought he had escaped the country, and And everybody it was really big
Yeah.
at the time, and that's kind of got me back into the whole
Mhm.
true crime thing. So sad.
Yeah. Like there was a trail cam out here in the country, a little town called Baker, and it was on our local news. I think it made national news at one point, and people thought it was Brian Laundrie in the woods that night, but it wasn't. It was a
Mhm.
local guy, who just traversed around the woods at night with his backpack on, like a homeless guy or something. But people were like, it was even on Facebook, floating around the Facebook groups. That this, it was Brian Laundrie, but it wasn't. It was a random dude in Baker, Florida, hiking through the woods in the middle of the damn night, and a deer cam caught him. God, let me turn this phone off. I get telemarketer calls all of a sudden lately. That's all I'm getting, and it's irritating to me on my phone. They need to stop it because I'm going to get mad. And you know what? A lot of them now are like these automated machines that just start talking to you, and I'll be trying to interrupt them. And even real, you are a computer talking to me. Hanging up. Hanging up now. So how many of you got to see that Karen Reed hearing yesterday? Did you see it, Firefly?
I did not know. Didn't know anything about it.
We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I'm going to bring you a piece that started. This is I think this is whoops, go back. This is actually a video I dropped this morning, or was it? Yeah, no. Wait, let me get my list back up here the right way so I can see what's going on. Yeah, this is one that I dropped because this is where the prosecution gets up and talks to the judge, and pay attention to what he's saying, because shortly after when he's finished, that's when she says she needs a short recess. And then when she comes back, she's visibly shaken. Dolphin and I noticed that her hands are shaking, her glasses are shaking, and yeah. So let me pull up this and pull up the screen, and then we're going to see a news piece on it as well. Okay, got it there. Here we go. I don't know if I can make that bigger or not. Oh, I can. Okay. Oh, that's right, because it was a video and not a short. Okay.
All right. So the Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern. The implications of that information may have profound effects on this defense and defense counsel. So for that reason, I'm going to suspend today so that when we meet again to address these issues, all affected at 11 o'clock in the morning. You can tell me now if that is impossible for you.
They're all conferring.
And where Mr. Brennan, where the federal authorities have been kind enough in the past to allow me to have copies of everything, would you be kind enough to call over there or check with whomever you were dealing with to see if I can in fact get a copy of everything that you just read?
I can, and there's a brief chronology I think Your Honor should be aware of. If I could add that right now, it would take me less than a minute. The chronology is December 4th, we sent another tour request, 2024. January 6th, we filed our notice of intention to exclude ARCA experts. January 30th, 2025, the United States Attorney's Office sent a response to both ours and the defense requests. And the prosecution received an email from the U.S. Attorney's Office saying that the contract had ended with the ARCA experts and that if either party wanted to engage, the original materials are still protected. This was a change in position about whether a party could engage. On February 11th, we filed the motion to exclude. February 13th, the defense provided us the emails that I read, February 13th, 2025. I think I said the federal government. It was the defense. February 13th, 2025, they sent us the emails and the direct examination outline. We reached out to the federal government again because I was curious about the change in position on February 6th, that the contract has ended, but that parties could contact ARCA. Obviously, the Commonwealth is in no position to contact ARCA because that would naturally preclude the defense from.
The information that was provided to you, not from the federal government, I'd like a copy of before you leave the courthouse today.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, 11 o'clock a week from today.
I was muted, sorry. We're going to watch the news clip that's going to explain better what happened there.
Oh, okay, because I'm so confused.
Yeah. It's about some shit. And look, guys, I'm walking into this case with a completely open mind because I did not watch that first trial. I didn't want to. I don't want to hear that Turtle Boy stuff. I don't care about him or anything that went on with that aspect of it, right? I don't know what Bev's normal, 1 to 10 range is. I get that I saw what people were saying about her. But I'm going to keep an open mind until I see more. But I know both sides, but the second one I do want, because there were some things brought out I saw that I wasn't really too aware of before, that could be a motive as to why somebody else could have harmed him other than her accidentally hitting him. Because I don't think she murdered this guy. I don't think that happened. I never did think that happened. Not with the way they described everything that went down, and all that good stuff. But I know people have their feelings toward that judge. I tried to follow along the defense diaries a little bit last night, but it was I had to go do some research on some other stuff, so I dipped out, and then I went back and did, found a few things to watch on this because I'm really trying not to. I'm trying to form my own opinion first. You know what I mean? Before I make an opinion, if that makes sense. Doesn't mean I won't watch content about it because I do need, I want explanations for certain things that are going down that I don't know about. And then when the female attorney Little that got up and spoke really said something interesting that caught my eye that we will go over. But here is the news clip based on what we saw. It sounds like Firefly that there were some experts that the defense did not disclose communications with said experts and money being exchanged. Now, if any of that's true, yeah, don't know yet. They weren't supposed to be because these were ARCA investigators and all these things are involved in it. So it's a very complicated situation. She was definitely upset and her hands were shaking. I just,
She definitely seemed upset because I watched her during the trial and that was different behavior to me.
Was it? Okay.
She seemed,
I didn't watch that trial.
She seemed a little shaken, yeah.
And so, in these high profile cases are, and I'm not taking up for any judge because I saw what was happening with Judge in Idaho. And I don't know what the hell Gold's trip was, but these high profile cases are so polarizing. Are they afraid to make the wrong move sometimes, or do they get fed up at some point? Different, there's all kind of things that, like, if I was a judge, I'm not so sure I could hold my tongue. I'd be like, y'all, what the hell? Y'all children in my courtroom. Stop it. Y'all know the damn rules. Everybody play by the rules or I'm going to throw you all in the jail. That's what I'd tell them. I wouldn't play around with none of them. So let's watch this piece.
Well, a shocking development today in the Karen Read case. The judge suspended today's hearing right in the middle of it due to, quote, grave concern over new information. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Matt Pritchard.
JC Mom coverage tonight on what this means moving forward for Karen Read and her impending retrial. We want to start with NBC 10's John Maroney outside Norfolk Superior Court. What happened there today, John?
JC, it was a typical hearing that turned upside down when the prosecution accused the defense of not sharing information.
The implications of that information may have profound effects on this defense and defense counsel.
Judge Beverly Cannoni abruptly suspending a hearing in the case of Karen Reed, apparently upset over revelations about accident reconstruction experts for the defense.
Instead of being focused on a trial that's less than 2 months away, we now have another significant issue that the court has to deal with.
Prosecutors have filed a motion looking to keep 2 experts from ARCA off the stand in the second trial. And the first one, they told the jury John O'Keefe's injuries weren't consistent with getting hit by Karen Reed's SUV, raising questions about how he died.
If you don't want me to say this, that's fine. That's fine. Shh. Don't tell them.
Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan says the state and the court weren't given full disclosure about the experts. In the first trial, he says they were never told the defense was paying them $23,000 and collaborating with them on their testimony.
I don't care about their opinions, but I care that it's unfair. The defense is entitled to discovery.
I don't know. We'll find out. Defense attorney Alan Jackson left court without saying much. Michael Coyne says the judge could eliminate the ability of Jackson and the other out-of-state defense lawyers to appear in her courtroom.
She could revoke it if she thought that they were not acting in accordance with our rules of court and our ethical requirements.
Now, the hearing has been continued until next week. In other developments, the defense did file a federal appeal to that SJC ruling last week. It is still looking to have 2 of 3 charges against Karen Reed dropped, including second-degree murder. We're live in Dedham. John Maroney, NBC 10 Boston.
Okay, John, let's bring in NBC 10 political commentator Sue O'Connell now. Sue, there.
So apparently Firefly, not these. They were independent ARCA experts from the federal government, and neither side was supposed to communicate about PrEP with these experts before trial. That's just what I'm gathering as of last night. And this, whatever occurred there, if it occurred and they can prove it occurred, it could get her attorneys taken off the case. They're not licensed in the state of Boston. They're from New York, but they had special privileges to go ahead and be over there. What did Bob and Allie call it? Fact something. Anyway, she could revoke that. So we don't know at this time what's going to happen. I don't crash zaddies. I saw somebody, you know what? I ain't calling no grown man daddy. And I know that, defense daddies. And then they had somebody was calling these guys something else. Daddies, and I was like, man, they're damn grown-ass men attorneys. I'm not about to call no man daddy, no way. But I'm not making fun of you with, I know where you're getting it from. It's on Twitter, and I just, I can't. But yeah, so that's apparently the issue, is they did have some sort of communication with the expert, and there was talk about prepping for the trial and money to be exchanged when there wasn't supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? So I think that was the gist of what the problems were.
There is a lot we won't know about how today is going to impact the upcoming trial. You said, however, your concerns now are about the finger pointing among people who have been following the case, not necessarily the people who are in the courtroom.
That's right, JC. Look, this case has had several legitimate and deeply concerning issues, many points of public, and things like former cops, EMTs, or lawyers serving on juries, or police making donations to DAs. These are common practices that might feel wrong, but are typically within legal bounds. What we don't know, of course, about the exact nature of this latest issue, but one thing we do know, it's just another log on what's already a massive bonfire of chaos in this case. It just keeps adding fuel to a situation that's already burning with too many WTF moments, so we'll have to stay tuned.
All right, Sue, thank you very much. NBC 10 Boston is your home.
I'm kind of confused about what discovery, because, I mean, they already had the trial. They already had their testimony. What other discovery is there? So I guess I'm a little, I haven't been really keeping up with hearings.
Apparently, it's the email communications between the defendants and this ARCA testimony people are experts or whatever. Like I said, I'm going to have to get some more information on it, but and I tried hard to follow a couple of attorneys last night and it wasn't happening. It was all over the place and I couldn't. So I went over to Lawyer Lee and watched her. She gave some really, because she's calm and she gives some good explanations.
Okay, I have to check somebody out. Yeah,
check out Lawyer Lee. I like Lawyer Lee because she's very open-minded and she doesn't come in with
no agenda. She's not no skin in the game.
yeah, exactly. She's got no dog in the hunt. She's just going to come out and give it to you like it is. And I don't, that's why I'm trying to avoid certain things with the case, because I don't want to be an echo chamber. I want to make up my own mind and figure it out.
Is she a prosecutor or defense?
I believe she's a defense attorney.
Okay, because sometimes that makes it a little difference if you're biased a little.
Well, she never has ever come across that way to me. I started following Lawyer Lee under the Crystal Rogers case, long before Delphi coverage that she did, long before this coverage that she did. I watched Lawyer Lee for a very long time, and a lot of people didn't know who she was until she covered Delphi, right? So it's just you have to just and even what's his name, Lawyer he did a good piece on it as well.
Okay.
A very put together piece on it, and that's what I'm looking for, cohesive put together pieces on it, and I just didn't have time this morning to really play all of their stuff this afternoon here, because we're going to look at something else, investigation that went into this case.
Oh, that's really terrible.
Yeah, so it's not really just like the defense. Yeah, I'm not saying, oh look, the defense messed up and it's not like that. I know that the cops in this town have messed up a lot, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna see that with this next piece here. Because
if she loses Jackson though, like she's done. I feel like, because
if he did something to cause it, then that's on him.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
I don't know what else to tell them. I'm not going to take up for an attorney who, if he did do something that was not correct, then that is completely on him, and that's not the judge's fault nor the prosecution's fault. And people have to remember that, you can think what you want and do what you want, but that's what I'm going to take out of it. But I know there was a horrible investigation done into this case. You don't collect evidence in red Solo cups, right? And the craziness of the broken tail lights.
So many things. The reverse image of the Sally Port. So many things.
Exactly. So many things. And it's like, why? But in turn, one of the officers that was present at that home that night was also at the bar with them earlier. And he was always flirting with Karen Reed.
Higgins.
And texting her, right? And she was ignoring the text. And then Higgins is the one that wanted John to come over to the house and things of that. So that's a lot of shadiness, in my opinion, right? Going down there. So you guys have heard of the Sandra Birchmore case and the Brian Walsh case?
Yep.
Okay, let's
It was the biggest, most divisive trial of 2024. Karen Reed accused of murdering her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Prosecutors said she ran him over in a jealous, alcohol-fueled rage. But the defense painted a different picture. A police cover-up, spearheaded by the community, and has a lot of people taking a closer look at police, including those connected to 2 other high-profile cases in the same county. Tonight, we'll take a look at Trooper Proctor and other alleged dirty cops and the impact it will have on the trial of accused wife killer Brian Walsh and the murder of Sandra Birchmore.
Things are not good in Massachusetts, I'll tell you that right now. Things are not good. They're not the way they should be. People who work in law enforcement and for the government, you want to be able to trust them. You want to believe in them. but I don't know if that's where we are. And it all really started, well, it's the Karen Reed case. It took on a life of its own and has really changed things. But when you really zero in on it, on the role of law enforcement and all this, it always comes back to one person from that trial.
You also told ADA Lally that you, quote, did not have relationships or know members of the Albert or McCabe families, correct?
Correct.
And that's just not true, is it? You do know members of the Albert family. Isn't that right?
It's different from having a relationship with people.
But what about part of the question, did not have relationships or know members of the Albert or McCabe families? How about that part of the question?
Well, that's lumped in with the McCabes. I don't know the McCabe family, sir.
As the lead investigator and the case agent, you're aware it's also your responsibility and your obligation to investigate all potential individuals, right? All potential suspects.
Yes.
You're obligated to investigate anybody who would have a motive, a means, and an opportunity to commit the crime or the offense, correct?
Correct.
Motive includes anything from financial gain to could just be revenge, right?
Yes.
Could be a lover's quarrel, correct?
Yes.
Or it could be someone who's interested in someone romantically, correct?
Could be an argument inside of a vehicle.
So you became aware pretty early on that Mr. Higgins at least had a motive to want to visit harm on John O'Keefe, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, absolutely not.
Well, you knew he had this flirtatious relationship with Karen Reed, is that right?
Yes.
You became aware that he ignored, you saw the text messages, you became aware that Karen Reed actually ignored text messages from Mr. Higgins while at the Waterfall Bar and Grill with John O'Keefe, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes.
And you're aware that at 12:20 a.m., Brian Higgins sent a text message to John O'Keefe, coaxing him to 34 Fairview, correct?
Objection.
Your assessment, personal assessment, that Karen Reed had struck this officer with a car gave you license to call her a
It was my emotions had gotten the best of me.
and you called her a whack job. Gave you license to call her that too.
Yes.
Gave you license to say to your friends, oh, no. She's right?
That's what I wrote.
Gave you license to say that she's a
Again, another disgusting comment.
And then 5051 says, oh, she's skating, right?
Correct.
And what did you write after that?
My response was 0 chance she skated.
And then what did you write?
She's
0 chance she skates. She's right?
correct.
You decided on the 29th of January, 17 hours into this investigation, you decided individually, Trooper Proctor, you're not only going to put it on the girl, you decided you're going to make sure this is cut and dried, and the way you're going to do it is to make sure that she's That's what you were saying.
It was ugly. It was absolutely ugly. It was bad. So what has happened to Trooper Proctor since the trial? Well, July 22nd, 2024, Commonwealth.
Joe and V, what are you two doing over there? Y'all cracking me up.
Informed counsel in the court that Trooper Proctor had been suspended without pay and was the subject of internal affairs investigation. August 29th, Massachusetts State Police provided an extraction of Proctor's work cell phone to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. September 4th of this year, Massachusetts State Police provided consent from Trooper Proctor's work cloud account to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. Then the Norfolk District Attorney's Office is in the process of ascertaining how to determine what, if any, information on Trooper Proctor's work phone or cloud is discoverable in this or, and this is the most important part, other cases. This wasn't his only case, folks. He's a big deal, or was a big deal in the DA's office in Norfolk County. This case that we've been tracking for quite some time, Brian Walsh, accused wife killer. He's the case lead investigator on that one as well. This is another murder case. take a look here, what the defense is saying in that case. It's clear, based on the evolving factual record regarding Trooper Proctor, that there exists a lack of supervision, that biased decisions infect the myriad of decisions made during the investigation and prosecutions handled by these law enforcement personnel and the DA. Like, is this going to end up dirtying up the DA as well? How far do the tentacles of this go? And there's another case, too. Sandra Birchmore.
Not the tentacles. Joe, did you hear that?
Murder of her. A complete copy, this is what the defense wanted, of any documents, correspondence received from the U.S. Attorney or any other federal agency concerning the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office investigation into the death of Sandra Birchmore because of the way they handled the Karen Reed case and the way Trooper Proctor acted. So Sandra Birchmore, who is she? She's a woman who was murdered, and they have pointed the finger at a police officer, Matthew Farwell, who allegedly groomed her and got her pregnant and then killed her. I mean, these are some of the allegations.
She's a girl. She eventually became a woman. She eventually became a woman before she was unalived, but she was a girl. She was a young lady, a minor.
Right. Yes, she was.
Take a listen to the U.S. Attorney, Joshua Levy, talking about it.
Good afternoon. On February 4th, 2021, Sandra Birchmore was found dead in her Canton, Massachusetts apartment. The charges filed today in federal court allege that she was in fact murdered by Matthew Farwell 3 days earlier. At the time of her death, Sandra Birchmore was a 23-year-old woman with her entire life ahead of her, and she was pregnant with her first child. We allege that Sandra Birchmore survived years of grooming, statutory rape, and then sexual violence, all at the hands of Matthew Farwell, who was employed throughout their relationship as an officer and then detective for the Stoughton Police Department.
Yeah.
She was 15, allegedly, when they started this, and she was 23 when she was unalived.
Yes.
That is half of her life, more than half of her life,
I have
that
his
she spent
indictment.
being groomed and SA'd
Yeah, I
by
have
the
it.
Stoughton Police Department.
When you read some of the text messages between him and her, you'll see how deep it went.
And when it became clear to Mr. Farwell that he could no longer control Sandra Birchmore, he allegedly silenced her permanently, ensuring that no one is above the law, protecting the vulnerable people of Massachusetts. That's the highest calling of people in law enforcement. And this case represents those principles. And every day across Massachusetts, thousands of police officers, federal, state, local law enforcement, put their lives on the line to protect the people of Massachusetts. Mr. Farwell violated those principles, and now he faces very grave consequences.
Okay, and that case originally investigated and was they were saying it was suicide, but it wasn't suicide, it was murdered by the police. That's the allegation now. What's going on in Massachusetts? Let's bring in our local insiders. Joining us from Massachusetts, one of the lawyers who represented Johnny Depp in his defamation case and partner at Brown Rudnick, Wayne Dennison, is with us. Also joining us, criminal defense attorney Joseph Krowski Jr. All right, Joseph, what's going on in Massachusetts? This is madness. It seems like it could be a field day here. I don't know if you can get 12 people in the box who are going to give the benefit of the doubt to any officer, any DA. I mean, how bad is it?
Hey, things are great up here in Massachusetts.
Well, you're a
especially if
defense
you're a
attorney.
defense attorney. That's right. So look, I happened to be in the courtroom the other day. A couple of years ago, the courts in Massachusetts lowered the bar regarding admissibility of misconduct alleged against police, and Porges are duty bound to go after this information, because to the extent that Proctor's training and experience as an investigator is relevant, certainly this casts, a doubt on that. So they're going after it, but I think judges are really going to be loath to allow Karen Reed in the Karen Reed case to start to bleed into these other cases. But certainly the Walsh case, it seems to be a lot of evidence against him. he might have just caught lightning in a bottle with this information. The judge does, however, have discretion in how much of that evidence comes in. You know, in the Karen Read trial, one of the things that I think Proctor should have done, showing contrition is one thing, but he should have fought back. Why did he say those disparaging things about Karen Read? What's important on the flip side of that is out of all of the information and data they got from the extraction, they never got any information that he actually was covering up a crime or conspiring to cover up a crime and point the finger at Karen Read. So it's going to help Brian Walsh. Now, in the Birchmore case, it's going to hurt because they're going to lump in Proctor with Farwell, and they're going to think that he was covering up for an officer when he deemed it a suicide. So as a defense attorney, it's refreshing because we have been talking about this as long as I've been a lawyer for 25 years, that police officers are human beings, that they're fallible, that they're
What?
Say what?
What?
Dude?
Police officers are human beings, so it's okay for them to groom unalive young women because we're all human beings. You know, we all have a tendency to groom and essay and unalive young women. I mean,
we are being
None of those officers in question belong as police officers. None of them.
Nope. But over
they
the
don't
past,
even belong as human beings.
No,
because what that defense attorney just said, he's excusing them because, quote unquote, we're all human beings. No, human beings don't do that to other human beings. No, no.
Okay, and with the past 2 years and two of the highest profile cases outside of Karen Read, we are being bombarded with how great defense attorneys are. And every move they make is to protect their client and do this and do that. Maybe so, but they're not always right. We need to remember that as we move forward in these cases. But I totally agree. This is a bunch of bullshit. We call bullshit.
Subject to frailties and corruption. I just wish it didn't take Karen Read to bring this to light, but I certainly think that Proctor is persona non grata now in the Norfolk County courthouses as it relates to prosecutions of cases.
Wayne Dennison, I was there. I was speaking with people in the crowd. These were folks who you know, they're not active in this area. Like, this wasn't their thing, but they latched onto this case, and the way they explain it when they speak is that the reason we supported Karen Read, because it could be me next time, right? That's the way they're seeing it. And all these people that are seeing it that way.
Oh God, we're hearing that in Idaho. This could be y'all. This could be y'all they're planting DNA on a sheath.
Are potential jurors in other cases, number one. And number two, they're the citizens of the community. I mean, to me, there's like almost like an implosion in trusting your local law enforcement, whether it's the state police, your local police, or your local DA.
Well, I think we're going to have to back up a step here, because what we're fighting about right now is access to Proctor's information, the stuff in the cloud, the stuff on his cell phone. And if we back this up just a step, we've already appointed an independent examiner to try to determine whether any of this stuff relates in the broadest of sense to the Walsh investigation and to the Walsh prosecution. And quite frankly, we're talking about the same judge. It's the same judge in the Karen Read case that is in the Brian Walsh case.
Well, the public doesn't trust, members of the public don't trust.
Oh wow, Canoni's the judge over there in that trial too, or in that case.
For real?
That's
wow. Didn't know that.
I just said. I didn't know that either. I had no idea. How does she feel with a bunch of dirty cops under her in her courtroom?
Trust her either. That's the other problem. I'm talking about trust in the system here, Wayne. It's so important. If we don't trust our system of justice, and it starts with law enforcement. It starts with law enforcement. Like if everyone's questioning them from the beginning, then the whole system gets undermined, I think.
Yeah, I understand that it does start with law enforcement, and the the duties of law enforcement are clear. The issue here, though, is unlike the Karen Read case where the question of her guilt was arguable and it remains arguable and we continue to argue about it, we're going to have another trial. This is going to be a very difficult defense case. This is an incredibly hard defense case.
But at the same time, and we're out of time tonight, I'm so sorry, Wayne, we're out of time. But at the same time, we've got the Sandra Birchmore case, which is making headlines. The public's reading about that. It's ruled suicide, and now all of a sudden it's a murder case. And oh, guess who the defendant is? Another police officer. So we're out of time. We're going to do this again. Don't worry, guys. Great to see you. Wayne Dennison.
Isn't that crazy? That's one officer is involved in these multiple cases, and a lot of the things he's saying and doing, and he's under federal investigation, right? For his conduct, and he shouldn't have been. I don't care if he thought that woman was guilty or not, to speak about her the way he was speaking in those messages and things like that. We were seeing that in the Mickey Steins read, the joking, the going on between the officers, right? That was very inappropriate. So what was she doing to cause you to say all that horrible stuff about her? That's just insane to me. Okay, let me see. It's going to be interesting to see how the judge gave them a week. Now we're going to follow the Sandra Birchmore. Let me give you guys an update. He was in court this month, and they have continued the case on that until April 15th. After a brief sidebar conversation out of earshot of those in the courtroom, they continued it until April 15th. So, and they are encouraged both sides to begin thinking about a realistic trial date. Yeah, let's get realistic about these trial dates. You know what I mean? 2, 3, 4, 5 years out. It's a little ridiculous for some of these cases. So we'll be interesting. I'm going to, get some more information on the because I have followed the Birchmore case loosely as well. I mean, I know what all's went on there, and I do have some more stuff on that, but I don't know if we'll have time to really go. I do have another piece by Court TV, but it's like 44 minutes long. I'm not in a hurry to go anywhere. I don't have nothing else to do right now, but I did. I wanted to bring this out to you guys and see because I know a lot of you are interested in the Karen Read case and have followed it, probably a lot more than I have. So it is something we're going to be getting into because I do want to cover the trial like I had stated before, and it'll be like a practice run for me on covering trials. So we might have hiccups along the way, but I'm open to all you guys suggest. And I noticed a couple of you did suggest maybe starting it a little bit late so we could fast forward through breaks and things like that, which is a great idea. So we will see how that develops. And we have a dedicated channel in our Discord that we are dropping information in when one of us finds it, so we can try to bring you guys the latest updates as they come down. But I'm going to try to get a better understanding of the case. I did reach out to somebody this morning who does know the case very well, and we may be able to get her to come on and talk to us about it a little and to help me get there a little further as well. Always interesting to have her on and get her take on things. And I know where the Google Drive is with all the documents and things like that. But so we'll be delving into it a little more as we move through that case. Firefly, you said, did you watch the first trial or you didn't?
I did. I missed the first week, but the rest I watched. It was like 8 or 9 weeks.
I didn't watch any of it. I mean, I attempted to watch a couple times, but it seemed boring. And it seemed like there was like arguments I didn't care to hear about, and all that Turtle Boy stuff was happening. And I can't, when YouTubers start to come entwined and stuff.
I didn't even watch any of that. I just watched the trial live, while I was working, listened into it.
Yeah,
so
I don't
good.
like it, and it's like, yeah. And I do plan to watch this one though, because she's being tried a second time, and then when I saw the stuff about, how the stuff about Higgins come out, I was like, man, that's there's got to be something to that. If she didn't accidentally hit him and she was completely uninvolved, then that means somebody in that house did it. Who would that have been, right? Was it him? You know, did he lure John there that night for purposes to, you know, have a beef with him or something? I don't know. But like I said, I did reach out to someone this morning about maybe coming on and talking to us and getting us caught up a little bit. I know she's at work today, so maybe I'll hear back from her this evening. I checked the docket this morning, and nothing new had come down in the Kohberger case yet. Yeah, I don't care about that circuit stuff either, Pokemon, right? Just the court stuff. And that's where where we end up a lot of times with these cases, trying to base it out of what's coming out of the court and the documents, and not the backroom deals and the stories and the who's cahooting with who kind of thing to push out narratives. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, like I don't want to follow anybody who's already made their decision. Like I want to watch the trial and make my own decision. You know,
I agree.
Like Turtle Boy thinks she's innocent or whatever. So
Yeah, from that, they like that whole Free Karen Reed movement thing and all that. I was like, and all those cops and the Turtle Boy stuff. I couldn't even tell you what all went on. I know that there was, you know, he had to go to court and all this other stuff went on, but I would see the tweets, but I wouldn't read them. You know what I mean? I wouldn't read into it, and I wouldn't go look it up, and I wouldn't follow it because I was like, nah, this is too much.
Well, it kind of matters though, because what I've heard, and I don't know this verifiably, but Turtle Boy has actually helped to raise money to pay for her defense attorneys.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he has.
So it matters. So it matters, even though we don't.
No,
like
I
the
understand
drama
that.
aspect
What
of
I'm
it.
saying
Yeah.
is let me make this very clear because I see the comments as well. I understand he is a part of it, right? But I don't support him.
Right.
I just don't. And if it comes up in court, fine. But outside of court stuff, I don't care. And that's just me. Y'all can, you know, everybody is entitled to their thing. And maybe he brought a lot of things out in this case that needed to be brought out and that kind of stuff. But it got incredibly messy. There were a lot of accusations being made. People were being doxxed. People were being threatened. And the same thing happened in Delphi when certain people from YouTube got involved. And I don't want any part of that stuff.
yeah, none of that drama is relevant to her guilt or innocence. I mean,
Exactly. You know, if he did a lot of things that could help her case, fine. If he didn't, fine too. That's on him. I'm not here to discuss him, you know, but if it comes up in court, then so be it. Then it's discussable. But as you know, as far as the tweeting and all those things I see, I like all that Sebastian Rogers tweeting I see, I'm scrolling right past all that crap.
I agree. When is the second trial starting?
August, no,
April 1st?
April. We said that yesterday, didn't we? Didn't Firefly? I think it was April. Dolphin.
Okay, because I
So
haven't watched the
it's coming
first
up.
one either, and I do want to watch it.
But
Yeah.
this news might change.
Yeah,
that,
it might
right?
delay it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you never know.
That'd be
They
good.
got to meet. They're going to meet back up next week in court, and I guess the judge is going to make some decisions about whether she's keeping these attorneys on the case, because I think it's not going to be like Delphi, where I'm just going to remove you. If they did violate something, she can revoke their privilege to be in her courtroom.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
I definitely think so. I couldn't weigh in at the time, but I definitely think her voice was shaken, like she was shaken by whatever news she got. Her voice was definitely different than normal.
Yeah, I have the video where he spoke, where we played it. What it was is the prosecution got up there and told that the defense was communicating with those experts when they weren't supposed to be. And then she called a short recess, and then she comes back, and she was visibly shaken. I know everybody's telling me that's just her. She's a little dramatic or whatever.
Nope.
Her
She
hand
was shaking. Yes.
She was
Yep.
shaking. And at some point, these judges, do they become overwhelmed with these cases as well? You know, if I was a judge, I might get tired and tell them all to F off and go home for the day and come back when you can put your big boy pants on.
Yeah, and you know, there's a maybe a fine line, or maybe not so fine line, between that and what Judge Diener did in Delphi, where he said there was a bloodlust of the public to find out information, and he recused himself because of a quote unquote public bloodlust, which was ridiculous after the Save Eva murder. Anyway,
Yeah, that's a whole different story, though. I mean,
It is. Yeah, it is.
that's a whole different level. Each case has its own different level of BS, and they're all, different states, different things. And the thing about it is when people start throwing shade in this case or in that case, then they want to also bring that over to this case where there may not be any. And that's where I, try to keep an open mind with these cases and get there together and we talk through the things, you know what I mean? And I do realize there's people in our audience that do know a lot more about it than we do, or maybe that I do and did watch the first trial and have their opinions. But like I said, I'm walking into it with fresh eyes now that they're going to do it again, and I'm going to try to make up my mind, based on what I see coming out of the court documents and the court hearings. And if Turtle Boy gets brought up, he gets brought up. Other than that, it is what it is.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of judges, depending on the state, are elected, and a lot of them are appointed too. But once they get appointed to a position, like Judge Fran Gull in Allen County, she got appointed at first in like the late 1990s, I think, but then she has been reelected to her position every election since then.
She's a prosecutor too. She had a stellar background.
But we as a people, we have power over that. We have the ability to elect or not reelect judges in most cases, in most states, at most levels. Not all levels, not all states, but like the people of Allen County can decide not to reelect Judge Fran Gull next year. But you know what? They probably will. Honestly, they probably will, because you just go in and you vote for the incumbent 90% of the time when you're in Indiana. You vote for the incumbent, especially if they're on the R side of the ballot. That's Indiana. That's a fact of life.
And if the people of Indiana believe that she was correct in everything and the Delphi stuff, they're not going to go and not vote her in again or whatever, But like I said, be proactive in your own states. There's not a lot I can tell y'all other than that. I'm over Judge Gull. She's not going to be doing the appeals process, thank God. So like I'm so over that lady. She's not getting up any more of my headspace. She's not taking up any. I'm done with Judge Gull. She's done a lot of shady shit that I can't explain and I don't have the answers for, but I'm moving on. I can't, I don't know. I can't dwell on the same case over and over and over and over. I won't until the appeals process starts. Then maybe I'll be all over it again. And I will give updates as they come out and things of that nature. I'm going to present this just for a moment. I don't know what this actually means. Let's see if you guys can see this. If I can blow it up. Can you see that pretty good? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the last things we had come up on the case summary this is the Idaho 4 docket, guys. Brian Burgers. V, are you talking about Turtle Boy? I mean, you can bring him up, hun. I'm just saying, I don't, that's a whole messy situation that I just don't, it's icky to me, and I don't like it. But y'all are totally free to do what y'all want and listen to what you want. So we know they had those subpoenas issued, right, back in February 12th. And then this has come down on the docket the 17th. These 4 things were added. A response rebuttal to defendant's supplemental response to request for discovery regarding expert witness. And then another one, motion to redact and seal newly filed records, motion to seal exhibit to state's rebuttal to defendant's supplemental response to request for discovery regarding the expert witnesses. And then another one doing the same thing for the state's rebuttal to the defense supplemental discovery. RE expert witnesses. It was all. Then now as of this morning, nothing new had dropped on the docket, but let me get down here and take a look and see if anything has since then. I doubt it. But we are so waiting on several motions to be decided on, right? And also that Frank's hearing. determination. And I don't know what's taken the judge so long to get some of these orders or decisions made, what he's weighing there. But yeah, nothing new has been filed into the docket since the 12th, and it was just the order sealing Exhibit S1 RE State's response to defendant's 22nd supplemental request for discovery. V, you don't know who that is. But there have been, let's see, let me pull this up. I don't know. I saw this like a week ago, and I saved it to watch, and I never did get around to it. And then I noticed something they said caught my attention, and it's a Fox 13 is out of Seattle, and they are doing a podcast on the Bryan Kohberger case, and we're going to watch a little bit of this one. Apparently they're going to be doing a documentary as well. I don't know when. I'm assuming maybe after trial. I don't like these documentaries that come out before trials ended, because what are you going to do? What are you going to say? You know, unless you do a part 2 afterwards. But I don't know if you guys are familiar with this or not. But like I said, it's Fox 13 out of Seattle.
No, it doesn't sound familiar.
Yeah, they just started this. Like, they have a lot of in-depth coverage on their YouTube channel, because I went and looked. But they just started this podcast up, and they do like an introduction thing. But this is episode 1, called "The Ruling That Could Change Everything." And I think they've dropped 4 episodes so far, and they did mention the podcast and then this documentary, and I was like, oh, you guys are going to be doing a documentary. And I know some people feel certain kind of ways about those things, about the books that were all written long before that. We didn't even go to trial and books were being written. You know, ridiculous, right? So I just wanted to share this with you guys in case you hadn't seen it. I don't really know what all's in here, if I agree or disagree with it, but we'll discuss.
Welcome to this podcast episode of Bryan Kohberger, Inside the Idaho Murders. I'm AJ Janavel. We are taking the time to look into this case. It's a case that probably everyone has heard of. It's been in the public eye for years. But what we're doing differently is we are talking to experts across the board. We're journalists. We've been covering this for months and years at this point, but we're talking to lawyers. We're talking to detectives. We're also speaking with mental health experts about the specifics of this case. And what we're learning is that a lot of the information that has been out there might seem different. It might actually be shocking and surprising when you hear how these experts are looking at it. Today, joined with Shira Matsuzawa. Shira, you have been covering this case. You were in Idaho when it happened. We've been seeing this information for months, for years, all of the details. For the first time really in a long time, we're getting some new updates in this case.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned we've been covering this for years, and we've seen hearing after hearing, but this is probably one of the most consequential hearings because it dealt with the defense trying to get key DNA evidence kind of thrown out of this case, right? They're asking the judge for this. And if that happens, if they're successful, I mean, that could just change the course of this entire case.
Because the DNA is what kind of links everything together. It's like a house of cards almost.
Exactly. It's the whole reason why they have Bryan Kohberger as a suspect. It's the whole reason that they were able to arrest him and charge him, and that's why we have an upcoming trial, right?
Right.
But the defense, you know, they're saying that the whole reason they're trying to toss this out is because that this evidence that was gathered, they're saying that it was illegally obtained. Right? That police didn't really go through the proper measures. Maybe even some of them lied in order to get a search warrant. And then they're saying, you know, that this violates Bryan Kohberger's constitutional rights, which prosecution obviously is saying that's not true. I mean, if you find DNA on a knife sheath at a crime scene where 4 students were stabbed to death, then that expectation of privacy goes out the window.
Now tell me about this, because we had this January 23rd date. I think I saw that in so many reports. Some of the experts I was speaking to was like, January 23rd is going to be the day. You're focusing on the DNA. We're talking about the DNA. You're telling me about all these specific things, that knife sheath. Can you tell me, like, what all is connected to what the defense was bringing up in this case. So that 23rd day, that January 23rd, the day we'd all been hearing about, the defense goes in. What are they basically trying to pitch to the judge?
Yeah, I mean, they're saying that basically the process in which they found that DNA, the investigative genetic genealogy process, that it was done illegally through this. And so that's why they're really just trying to take that out, right?
And the IgG that you're talking about, that's basically like your DNA is in a database.
Correct.
Maybe one of your family members did one of those ancestry things, and now your DNA exists, or another family member committed a crime. So you're saying like this specific DNA is what they were focusing on?
That in addition to Kohberger's entire digital footprint, if you will, right?
Okay.
Because they checked his Amazon records, his cell phone records.
yeah.
They're also bringing up the fact that they went through his trash in Pennsylvania, right? And there was one point actually in that hearing where the judge said, well, hey, if you're throwing things away into the trash, then your expectation of privacy is automatically out the window.
Right.
Like, you can't try and use this as a defense, right?
Which is interesting though, because I heard some experts talking about that too, and they say if you throw your trash away, it's kind of public game. And in my head, I was thinking about think about like the public documents or the private documents rather that you would toss out. And so I did hear that where one of the experts is saying, what you throw away is not, that's not private. And so you're saying that this was something that they brought up, like what you put in the trash is trash.
Yeah.
Like you can't expect that that's your privacy. But that's how you're saying they got his DNA and confirmed it with all the other information.
In addition to a bunch of other avenues, right? And I think a lot of people, they probably hear this and they're saying, why is the defense doing this, right? What is the point of this and putting these families through this, going through all of this? And it's simply for the fact that the defense has nothing to lose, right?
Right,
They can,
right.
They could either do this now, maybe they fail.
Joe, who you calling idiots, these people?
Yes. Oh, I don't know if you throw your trash out, if it's acceptable to take it or not. And we actually went down that path on one of my lives once because I also was confused about it, but we figured it out.
Why people are still confused about it after 10, 15, 20 years.
No, it was a 1988. It was a 1988 case. It's been a lot longer than that. But but there are some legalities about it that you got to figure out. Like, is it a public street? Is it publicly accessible and things like that?
It's got to be out to the curb too, right? Not at the house. Like
it has to
they
be.
can't.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
No, necessarily. They can't come up to your property.
They cannot come on
the house.
property.
The law enforcement cannot, but your trash company can if it's within the agreement with your trash company. If your trash company is allowed to come and take it, they can do whatever they want with it after that. They can give it to law enforcement if they want to. They can go through it themselves if they want to.
But they can't drive into your driveway and get it.
Yes, they can. If it's a private agreement between you and the trash company, they absolutely can go on private property to take it. Absolutely.
So I don't picture too many big ass trash trucks.
Yeah, there aren't any.
No. That's an unusual situation for sure. Absolutely. And
it's been the law for 30 years, well established in the Supreme Court that your trash, once it goes to the curb, is fair game for law enforcement.
Damn it, are we going down this path again? I thought we had this.
We are all saying the same things over and over.
We are.
So,
Yes, we are. Yeah.
I just don't understand why people still want to debate it, or even this guy. I wouldn't listen. I was doing something, looking at something on my phone real quick.
I call these two news commentators idiots because they're clearly not up to speed on the law and the U.S. Supreme Court.
I mean,
they're not
most
discussing
people in
it.
this country are not up to speed on laws.
No, they're not.
We're in a very small minority.
No,
most
I'm
people are
just an
walking
everyday
around
Joe
like,
Schmo. I'm just an everyday Joe Schmo.
And you
but you research.
exactly.
You research the Supreme Court. Case. Not everybody does that.
No, exactly. And when this case first happened, that was a big, huge debate for like months about the damn garbage. And we were trying to tell everybody, go look up the rule, go look up at the Supreme Court hearing, go look, this is legal. But people, and here's the thing about all this.
Where'd she go?
Just because the FBI might have went if he's guilty, it means a whole other thing. and that a lot of people want us to believe that means he's not guilty. Not y'all, but there are channels out there who want their communities to believe that if this IGG was done the back doorway, then that means he's not guilty. That's not what that means. Even if the trash was collected nefariously, still doesn't mean he wasn't guilty. But they better, why would you take a risk on screwing everything up on a high profile, if you think this is your guy? And we see cops doing it all day. That's why it's confusing to a lot of people. Karen Read in Delphi does not mean that Idaho is the same type of case.
Yeah, that California versus Greenwood U.S. Supreme Court decision literally specified, and this is what changed my mind about whether or not I doubted whether it was collected nefariously, that if a third party is allowed to collect your trash and they collect your trash under a private agreement, a third party agreement, they can do whatever the hell with it they want. They can go through it themselves or they can give it to law enforcement. They literally said that in that decision. So that's what changed my mind on this, because I was with everybody who was doubting, thinking, was it collected nefariously? Unless Anne can come up with something that says that trash company collected it nefariously, that dog ain't gonna hunt in this.
Nobody walked up in that man's driveway and got his garbage out. They saw him taking his garbage to the neighbors. They literally saw him doing that. So you automatically made yourself look super suspicious. I don't care. You can take away the fact that he may or may not have been putting on gloves in the house and bagging his stuff up. I don't know. That's what we've heard. But if law enforcement is watching him and they see him walk out of his, and everybody's like, oh, well, my cans are full, my neighbor lets me use theirs. Okay. But if you're a murder suspect, why are you walking all the way over to the neighbors and dropping your trash in their can? Because you're terrified they're going to get your garbage.
Yeah.
Oh, where's need some Z's when you need her? Because she's going to have some argument against that. I guarantee it. Where are you need some Z's?
What argument against what? That it was fine for him to walk down there and throw his trash.
The only thing that throws a wrench in it all to me is him like him trying to hide his DNA in the neighbor's trash. He should know darn well that you don't need to get his specific DNA. Like you can match anybody in that family to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But he also knew he was going to fight that IGG if it come up.
I suppose maybe.
This guy,
and then the IGG, it's just a tip, so they're never going to drop that. I mean,
it's just a tool. But what they're going to try to do is set precedents with this case moving forward. So 10, 15 years, they will be citing Kohberger versus Idaho.
Yep.
Under the IGG. And let me, because I've watched a lot of DNA experts and IGG experts talk about this stuff over the years, right? And we all wondered why it wasn't used in Delphi. Well, why are we willing to accept it to be used in Delphi, but over here in Idaho, it's shady? That doesn't make sense to me. It just will never make sense to me. And then the more I got to think about it in 2019, when Delphi threw out the FBI, was the FBI doing IGG? Did it lead back to somebody they didn't want it to lead back to? And they're like, oh, we don't like your IGG, get out of here. Because something caused them to not jive with the FBI. And I don't know what that was and never will. And I'm just like, I'm so over a lot of that Delphi shit. But just because there are a lot of issues in Karen Read that we can see, and there are a lot of issues in Delphi, that doesn't mean those same issues exist in the Bryan Kohberger case. I know for 2 years people have tried to say they do, but I've not seen it yet. Anne hasn't brought any of that up in the Karen Read type stuff or Delphi type stuff. No. She's bringing up you went through the back door of the IGG, and that's the only way you got to my client, guilty or not. Guilty or not. And
right, but the reason she keeps doing that is because the prosecution, like the state, has never just plain shut her down and said, we knew about him because of this and this back on this date, long before IGG results came in, blah blah blah. We were already looking at him or whatever.
Right. The only thing they have is when they
haven't shut her up.
No. And well, do they need to right now? And but we do know they've come out and said things like, the WSU officer found the car on such and such date. And it felt like to me both things were coming down the pike at the same time. But which one came first, I'm not real sure. And there's a lot of good creators out there that have tried to put it into place. There's a gag order, but some of this stuff's in documents, and it came out in court hearings is where I'm basing this from. And like December 19th, the IGG, or December 20th, the IGG came back, but December 19th is when the car was discovered at WSU. There were all these things, so it can get quite confusing. And I know there's a lot of creators out there saying a lot of different things. That's why when I decided,
oh God,
covering this case, to try to stick to what was coming in the documents. Now I still do watch certain
No,
things.
I wasn't talking about you. Sorry. Two planes collide mid-air again. Two dead after small private planes collide in Arizona. Just saw a YouTube notification on my watch.
And people want to know why.
Damn, I wondered what that loud explosion noise was in my backyard.
Are you
serious? It does say Arizona. Yeah, but you know what though, Salty, even if they, couldn't put it out there, they could have had a sealed hearing, a closed hearing to at least shut her up, instead of allowing her to go on and keep saying, well, I don't know how they got to my client. I don't know how they got to my client. And then sitting here feeding everybody else out on social media saying, oh God, there's a cover up. Oh, they planted evidence. They framed him, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Just go ahead and shut her up. If you've got something, put it up and shut her up,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, put it in your filing or bring it up in the court hearing. Don't just sit there like a bump on the log and act like, well, I'll just wait, let her, because she's doing a good job of coming out and talking reasonable doubt, right? And that's all she's doing at this point. And that's her job. I get it. But I think a lot of people got so wrapped up in this garbage thing and the IGG thing that they think all that's going to take away from this guy being the guy. And, only way they could do that is if and the judge asked her several times, it was a privacy issue with the IGG. And if he didn't upload his own damn DNA, he has no privacy issue here. His family might, but he don't. And that's a civil
I don't even think the family does. When you submit your DNA, you don't, I don't know.
Well, let me show you. Let me see if I can. And let me show you something real quick. If I can, where's my history?
I guess I kind of look at it like this, like with what Firefly just said. If the family, it's essentially the family using, a genetic genealogy site or whatever, is like them putting their business in the street.
It's
that
the whole
company, says, oh no, we won't share it or whatever, or we might share it over here or whatever. But the very act of you putting it out there in this other, database or whatever, you're sort of throwing your business out there. So you lose, a lot of expectation of privacy, when it's kept, in home or whatever, that's okay. You've got 100% expectation of privacy. But the minute you start leaking shit out and and all that, it's like that percentage.
We know you worked with Lonnie before.
Right. And it's just this case has got, we all know how polarizing it can be. And all of the things people want to make of this case. And I don't know how it got there. Partly I do. It started when Steve come out and wanted to question things. He had the right to come out and question, but should he have come out and questioned law enforcement as hard? Everybody picked up on that. And YouTube, like we had Steve said,
the other actors on YouTube doing things and spreading stories.
Yeah. And he even, was talking about that, about the crazier the story you could put out on Idaho 4, the better it was for your channel. And there were a long time, for a solid year, channels were only putting out that stuff. They were not literally, they just weren't open-mindedly looking at the case. They were automatically, this guy's innocent, and here's why. All these tunnels and all these, talk about none of that stuff. Now, in her Frank's motions, she talks about everything but that. You got your warrants illegally and things of that nature. So if she's not talking about it, then it doesn't exist, people. So let's check out what Paul Holes has to say about something.
For Rebecca Zahau, which is airing, in the Saturdays within this match, which was kind of recent changes with companies like GEDmatch, which was kind of used for the Golden State Killer case to find the alleged suspect, and that trial is still ongoing. But what do you think about, users now having to opt in to have their records accessed, and what that means for law enforcement?
Well, on a personal level, I actually don't have any issues with this informed consent stance that GEDmatch has taken. But I think on a bigger picture, it's more how decision makers moving forward are going to take a look at this tool, because it is a balance between public safety and privacy. And I truly believe that once decision makers are educated about what the technique is and what it isn't, they'll understand that the privacy concerns that a lot of people are putting out there really aren't there. And that's part of just moving forward as a society as we debate this. We just want to make sure it's an informed debate. Educate yourselves and then make a decision.
Mm-hmm. So kind of balancing that for privacy, but also using it still for these cases.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In terms of the murder, Scott, I know we talked before it launched. Now it's way more than a few episodes in, and we talked with Billy earlier about the Allentowns 4. I want to ask you about your opinion on the Delphi murder update. So do you agree with investigators withholding some of the information, like the manner of death, or what's been going out so far in terms of pushing some new video out?
Right. Anytime you're dealing with an investigation, you're always assessing what can be released to the public and what you have to hold back. And law enforcement, when they hold back information, it's not to keep the public in the dark. It really is to help benefit the case. Now, I can't speak specifically about the inside information, the inside decision making that the investigators involved in Delphi are doing. However, reading it from afar, I can kind of see a strategy develop as they're moving forward. And knowing a little bit about that case, because I briefly consulted with one of the investigators shortly after the Golden State Killer case.
I want to know which one he consulted with, which investigator, because he is that IGG is his thing. He wouldn't have been brought in to consult with Delphi unless it was about IGG. And he had made statements before that it was a very complicated matter with the DNA in Delphi. I don't know. But the thing I wanted to show was the GEDmatch stuff, that fine line between public safety and privacy. And is there a real super privacy issue, and how deep does that go? And that is something the Supreme Court will have to handle going forward. And because nobody cared that it was used to catch this Golden State Killer. They were clapping, yay, IGG worked, we caught a serial killer. But then it's over here used as a tool to get Bryan Kohberger, and all of a sudden IGG is no good, FBI is horrible, they won't get to, the state's hiding, all these things. And it's like, I don't get why we are okay with it in some cases and not others. What makes Bryan Kohberger special?
Well, in the Golden State Killer, did they disclose how they got to him? Maybe that's the difference, the details, because it seems to be like all the details of how exactly the process they led to him.
Do you know how they got the BTK killer? They went and obtained Carrie's medical records, his daughter, and got her DNA and compared it and knew that was her father. And that's how they ended up catching BTK. Now, I don't know the full disclosure behind. They know IGG tool was used. They didn't go into court with IGG and say, this proves anything with the Golden State. They still had to get other evidence, you know what I mean? And they were able to do that. But it was definitely a tool used. And we know in Idaho they did gather the cigarette butt off the one guy, and I'm sure that was they tried to run that through CODIS. I'm sure if it was available, then did it not match the sheath? Did that rule that guy out?
I think that the defense just wants to make sure. I mean, yeah, it's their job. They want to make sure they didn't just start with Bryan Kohberger's name and work backwards. They want to see the process. They want to see that they started with this and then led to him. They want to just see the process so they can try and debunk it, I think so.
Well, they did. Well, remember, Judge got all the IGG information he could possibly get from the TUI request and the subpoenas that he issued to the FBI. FBI still doesn't have to give you a damn thing once you subpoena them. They're the FBI. But they did turn over some stuff because the judge had to go into his chambers and ask for special help to come in there and help him go through all that IGG information. And then he decided what to give the defense. Ann Taylor got it. And there are lawyers, defense attorneys on YouTube and Twitter that will tell you she got a huge win that day.
Yeah, because nobody else has ever gotten so much info. But you're just right. This is what's going to eventually go to Supreme Court and establish,
Yeah. So I don't think
how they're
going
going
to
to
be a non-issue here, and I don't know why people won't evaluate this case fairly anymore, based out of what the coming out of the courts and the documents. Can we take everything Ann says to heart? Some of it we can, some of it we can't. Am I going to believe all that the prosecution has to say? I have no idea, because they're not saying a whole lot.
Exactly.
We hear their rebuttals in the hearings and things of that nature, and I hear them say, we've given them this, Judge. They do have this. I've heard Ann stand there and say, I have everything on the car, including the going the wrong way on Ridge. Oh, did you turn around, Ann, and go back the other direction to get another view of the house through the woods that it could see? What do you mean? Ridge Road is like that long compared to the whole Willenta. We're talking about a very small. And then she pretty much admitted that one camera right there near the house is what they use to determine the year of that car, placing him right there. So you have to really listen to the words carefully. And I still don't know if this guy's innocent or guilty, and I won't know till court, but it gets to a point to where, I don't want people to come into this channel and think if I covered Karen Read or if I covered Delphi, my coverage of Idaho will be the same, because it won't be. And if that disappoints them, I can't help it. If it drives them away, I can't help that. I'm only going to report and discuss it logically and what's there, including Karen Read, including Delphi, including Idaho, Crystal Rogers, any case that comes up. They're not all the same. And just because there's nefarious shit going down in Karen Read and Delphi doesn't mean it's happening with Idaho. The three of us, God, how many hours have we spent going down those rabbit holes with Idaho trying to figure all that stuff out, and came up with nothing, except what's in court documents in the end. So I think that, I think people really need to get back to that part of it and really think about what they're saying when they say it. Just because, IGG may have been done, that doesn't mean the guy wasn't, guilty. And it still doesn't explain how his DNA got on that sheath. And people are still screaming about the transfer touch, but you got to explain that at some point. I heard again the other day, I was watching somebody and they're like, oh, I think it was Dylan, or that was Kaylee and Maddie's knife, and it was for protection. Okay, well, how did Brian Kohberger's DNA end up on it?
Right.
Make that make sense. It don't make sense anymore. Some of the avenues people choose to take with these cases, it's mind blowing to me. And yeah, so I started watching that Fox 13 thing. That doesn't mean I will agree with what they say. Like I said, I hadn't watched it all yet, and I'm trying not to be too super critical, and I'm not going to try to rehash whether or not garbage is free for the taking, because I've known for damn 30 years that it is. I'm surprised people that don't know, and that if you follow, I dive into a lot of evidence type stuff. I do a lot of research on it. You guys see the channels I have in the Discord, trying to get information in there about different things. You and Dolphin were watching things last night on forensic data. We are educating ourselves on this stuff, because you don't want to have a random YouTube creator, and that includes myself, just to come out and say, well, guys, this sucks, and this triangulation is wrong, and this is going to be off, and this tower's off, and this tower's off. How do we know?
Yep.
You know, we can use our best educated guesses. We can look up information. We can read about it. We can try to learn about it together and understand it. Um, I think Anne's done a good job at putting some reasonable doubt out there in people's minds, and are they basing a lot of it on that alone, or are they just basing it on what YouTubers are telling them? I don't know anymore, but I'm trying to keep it out, document based and what comes out of the court hearings.
I know, that's why we're constantly looking at the court updates. We want to see when there's
Stuff like
going
that.
to be another hearing. When's there going to
Oh,
be
yeah.
another Frank's hearing or
And
whatever?
it's just,
Because they leak out some info little bits at a time. So
they do. That's when you
want
find out things in this case. It's the only way to find out things in this case is through the hearings, right? Things like even we heard more about Dylan's actual statements in that last hearing than we've heard at all. Like her seeing and hearing more, and her even stating things like, I didn't know if I was dreaming or if it was real, because she was either
yeah, that's significant, right? I mean,
well, is it because she was heavily intoxicated, and like when Ashley got up there and spoke, she said, we know it wasn't a dream because there were 4 dead people in the house the next morning.
yeah, but the point is that it discredits her as a witness. So,
It discredits her eyewitness account, which was she eyebrow guy. She didn't see much.
Yeah.
Did she really, when did she see the other victim coming up and down the stairs? Was that before, is her timeline accurate when that happened? We are only hearing bits and pieces of what Anne wanted us to hear about Dylan's statement. We haven't heard the entire statement.
But the timeline should be pretty accurate, though, because once all that noise and ruckus starts happening and she starts texting, and then they also tie it in with the video outside, like, you can't really dispute that timeline.
No, I meant the timeline of when she saw or thought she saw one of the victims coming down the stairs. Going up and down the stairs. Could that have been when they were just finished walking Murphy and they ran back upstairs? And then 20, 30 minutes later, they're all passing out and things start happening. That's what I'm, that kind of thing is what I meant by that. And even like, Dolphin and I went and looked up this blood on the stairwell thing. And I saw another podcast last night talking about that. And it absolutely matters if this was degraded, how long it had been there. If it had been there a long time, these investigators can tell how long it had been there. If it was fresh blood, by all means, you need to test that, right?
Maybe that's why it's ineligible if it's degraded and it's not, good enough to. Well, they did search.
Yeah, if it was degraded or super old and ineligible to have a workup done on it.
Did I say something?
Oh, I thought you were going to.
No,
But,
I was muted. I'm sorry. I was looking at my text messages. You guys were talking about the blood and it being degraded. Yeah. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Potentially, just what if that's why it's ineligible according to the state.
According to the state, it was ineligible for testing, and you and I looked up some stuff about that.
Get down.
Just to see, why would they not test it? And there are particulars to run through the CODIS and everything like that. But how old was that blood? Stain on the stairwell. We don't even know if it was on the first or second stairwell. First floor, second floor. We don't know. We know that there are 2 investigators looking down that first floor stairwell. We can see them through the window standing there looking downward toward the floor, and they're probably trying to figure out in their head the path through the home that night or whatever. Did they do things? Was it a shoddy investigation? I don't know. I haven't really seen a lot there's no red Solo cups involved in collecting, DNA and data and blood and all that over here. There's
Well, that's one thing to be grateful for.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no evidence left at the scene untested for weeks and weeks and years, except for this blood samples that we've heard that were found on the stairwell and this random glove outside. Where was this glove? What kind of glove was it? Was it a regular, winter glove? Was it one of those black vinyl gloves? Was it a medical glove? How old was the blood in that? All the different things that come into play that we don't know yet. There's just so much we don't know yet. But just because there was a sample found on the stairwell doesn't take Bryan Kohberger off the table, in my opinion. His DNA is still on the sheet. So, and if someone helped him, he's damn well clammed up about that and is not going to throw him under the bus, is he? Because he wasn't there. He was out riding around stargazing.
I'm really curious about the footprint. Like there was more than one footprint, but was it just one shoe type? Were there more than one shoe type? Like, if there was more than one perpetrator, there's going to be different footprints.
Okay, so here's the thing. If Hunter ran in that house and he got to Ethan's door and Hunter stepped in any blood during that time and left footprints around that house, like I believe there's something in that living room floor. We
The
see
blood
that.
should have been dry by then, mostly.
Maybe so. Well, still a latent print that means that dried. But they can compare Hunter's shoes to the shoe print found in the hallway.
Yeah.
In front of Dylan's door. Did the blood, it seems like, was contained to the bedrooms. Did the killer lightly step in blood at some point and then just deposit it right there? I don't know. I can't explain that either. I don't know what to make of it or how it's gonna. Did they match that to a shoe they found in Kohberger's Pennsylvania home? Because they took several pairs of shoes out of that house. But as far as the people who went into the house the morning of, when 911 was being called and the friends were there, they can absolutely take their shoes and see, did your shoe match this print? And if there's any other prints in that living room, because there's some kind of biological matter in that living room. She's swabbing the floor. She's bending down. She's doing all the things, right? There's something in there. And so they can definitely tell, even with Dylan's shoes, I'm sure that, look, if I'm going to walk in that house and I got a victim telling me I've been in here 8 hours and just called you, excuse me, honey, you're number one suspect now. And if I discover a latent print now, I'm going to need to see all your shoes and you're going through some stringent questioning yourself until I can clear you.
You know what? I just thought about something too. At that time of night, if it's like 4 a.m. or whatever, and she's gotten up out of bed, she should have either been barefoot or had like maybe slippers on. And I mean, as small as her room is, I would think more like barefoot or socks or something.
Yeah.
Because why would you put slippers on just to walk a few feet to the door?
Right. Right.
Just to
Or
peek out.
your Vans, right? Why are you going to put your shoes on to walk outside your door and check on things? If you're already leery, she ran down to Bethany's room, different things. Like Jeff says, Anne doesn't characterize things for purpose of clarification for us to understand the truth or what happened. So, and we just heard a defense attorney a few minutes ago in that court TV piece taken up for somebody. We are all like, whoa, no, so we have to balance it and realize each case is different. I'm not going to treat them all. I'm not a channel who's like every defendant's innocent and the cops are bad and have done horrible investigations. Not until they show me they have. And then
let's not talk about Carroll County. Let's not.
I don't want to talk about them anymore. They give me a headache.
I have a question about this particular scenario. So one of the key things is, how dry would the blood have been at whatever point in time it was either tested or people may have walked through it and made footprints. So if you were going to conduct an experiment and say throw down a bunch of blood on the floor at around 4 o'clock in the morning or 4:12 in the morning or 4:27 in the morning, whatever time it was, how long would you leave it there to coagulate before you tested how dry it was?
I mean, you'd also have to think about the temperatures too, the weather there.
Yeah.
If you're really going to try to recreate it, it was like what, in the 20s or whatever.
Yeah.
There's rumors that a door or doors were open, external doors or whatever. And that was a cheaply made house, and it's on like what, hardwood floor or whatever, or is that like laminate or
the
whatever?
laminate type of stuff.
That was
There
a
are lots
cheap
of variables, but at what time are we talking about testing how dry it was?
I mean, it
The
was
next
what,
day at
8
noon.
hours?
8
later?
hours.
More than 8 hours by the time
And
crime
think
scene
about it.
investigators got there?
Like if most of the blood was contained within the two
In the
bedrooms,
bedrooms.
so in between you're gonna have droplets, like say off of the murder weapon or just drops. Like that's not gonna take too long to dry. A little drop here
Yeah,
and
a
there.
small amount, right.
And we know that blood ran down the wall outside of the home out of Xana's bedroom. There was a lot of blood in those bedrooms. You had 2 victims in each room.
And we saw the mattress being pulled out of her room.
Yes. Lots of blood in both of those 2 bedrooms. Not a lot of blood outside of the rooms. This person who did this, like I always wondered, did they lightly step into the blood for a moment, and did it track through the house? I don't know how that one latent, did that print come from upstairs as the person came down the stairs from the first floor, hit the landing there, and that deposited whatever was on that shoe onto that floor, and whatever little bit was there, it dried over the 8 hours, and then it probably took more than 8 once they got in there and actually started to process that crime scene. Once they got in there and declared the victims deceased and got in there, there's a lot of things that go into it, and I think people forget how bloody those 2 bedrooms really were. And I don't think everything in those rooms was completely dried. And I don't think a cleanup occurred, because Ann Taylor and the state would absolutely know a cleanup occurred. I've watched too many episodes of Forensic Files. They know. You can light up the room and see the smear marks from the damn towels where they wiped it with the bleach. You can smell.
I think people just get too fixated because the PCA only mentions the one latent print. That doesn't mean there's only one print, you know.
That was the only one with a good print pattern, right?
And it's right in front of her. It's because she said she saw the perpetrator walk in front of her room. Right. So I think they're just trying to corroborate that story.
Right. And was that the only one that had a clear impression of a shoe print? Like, you know, could it have rubbed against the floor in other parts and it mess up the bottom of the print itself? And because I've got a database that in the Discord looking at tire impressions, shoe impressions, all of that. Was that the only print that actually showed a pattern on the bottom of the shoe? And could they and plus, like you said, she saw the person walking toward her and appeared to go toward the kitchen. So would that corroborate that? You know, and the diamond shaped pattern of the shoe print, was that the only really good pattern they could pick up throughout the home?
I just Googled the weather history, and the high temp that day was 32 degrees. The low temp was 28. So that should be easy to recreate. That's only like 4 degrees difference the entire day.
Yeah, a lot of people, look, the moonlight, like Mr. Steve will tell you, everything plays a variable, including the moonlight of the night.
Humidity in the air.
The humidity, and we've looked at all of that over the 2 years in this case. There's been so much looked at in this case of people trying to clear Bryan Kohberger, down to the floor plans of the house, the tunnels, the secret doors, the temperature, the weather, the snow, all the things have been discussed, you know, and, you know, the cloudiness of the night and the stargazing and all the things. But with that amount of blood that was in each bedroom, would it have all dried before they got there?
There are people that say yes. There are people that say yes, but I don't believe it. I don't believe
Not
it.
in the bedrooms necessarily, but I think outside in like the living room and all that.
It all would have dried.
Yeah. Speaking of the blood, the amount of blood and everything. So Firefly and I, when we were watching some stuff the other night, like last night, I remembered this kid. The kid, his name is Derek Rosa, Derek Rosa, Rosa. He's the little boy. He was 13 and he stabbed his mother in the bedroom of their apartment, and his baby sister was in a crib in the room at the same time. A baby cam or cameras in the room or whatever actually recorded the act, right? The mother was on the bed taking a nap, and he came in and like stood over her and stabbed her, right? And then he went out to the front door, and I want to say there are cameras in the stairwell that caught him. And then he also took a selfie after the murders, and this kid was not covered in blood, You know, he had a little blood on his hand in that selfie, but then also when you looked at him from the like the front door when he was standing out, side, you couldn't see a whole bunch of blood. Like, so basically, this was an example of, I think, a good example of how somebody could stab somebody like that in a bed and not be like drenched in blood.
Right.
So we were talking about that, depending on, if they hit major arteries or whatever, and
And there was that 13 or 14-year-old girl who also killed her mother in the same way, stabbing. And when the police got there, she had hardly anything on her. They couldn't even tell she had done anything until she told them what she had done. And I was like, wow, people would be surprised. Everybody thinks this guy had to be just drenched and covered and it all over.
Well,
there would have been all the footprints outside the back door.
that you're looking like Carrie from the prom scene, in the movie Carrie. Like, no, not necessarily.
Yeah. No, Letitia Stock completely eviscerated her boyfriend. And she's still dressed the same when she goes into the police interview, and you don't look at her and go like, "Oh yeah, this person just completely."
Letitia Stock.
She killed a son, her boyfriend's son.
Her boyfriend's son. Is that what it was?
Yeah, as a little boy, she
Janet
murdered.
Stock was 10 years old.
What am I? What? Oh no. I'm
You're
thinking
about
of
somebody else?
Shabusiness.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's nuts.
Taylor Shabusiness. Yep.
Yes.
I saw her at the apartment complex, right? That after when they went to go get her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was not drenched in blood, even though she had just done what she did. That's who I was thinking of. Taylor Shabusiness. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because we've heard it all. We've heard like, well, how come there wasn't bloody footsteps, trails all the way out the back door, up the side of the hill, back to where he allegedly parked? Well, also, we have to remember, if Brian Kohberger's the guy, the minds of criminals, and look how long it took to capture BTK and Rex Heuermann and the Smiley Face Killer and the Golden State Killers. And this guy just studying all the things he studied and possibly could have done to cover his tracks. And if he did, he almost pulled off the perfect crime, because the only thing that got him was that sheath. Grainy car footage that, would they have ever been able to tie that to him without IGG pointing toward him? I don't know. So what if IGG pointed you toward him? That was the point of the IGG. Now we go look and say, oh wow, this guy drives a car very similar, if not the same, as the one we see on all these cameras. Now we're running AT&T warrants. Oh my God, his phone is pinging all the way to this house until it goes offline.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand why people get so convoluted with this case, and I don't know. It's like I was nervous. I made it clear in the beginning. Just because you hear me talk about Delphi one way, don't expect me to be that way about Idaho until Ann brings me something to talk about. And so far, she hasn't. We've got some spicy filings that have come out here and there, made us all wonder, what does this mean? And then as more comes out, we're like, okay, now I'm going to be super interested to see if this judge gives her a Franks hearing. And it's going to be based on IGG stuff, and if they did go in the back door and all these things, will it matter? Is it going to matter? Is that going to make their warrants null and void at that point? I don't know how the judge is going to see all that. So it'd be really interesting to see how all that plays out. And after living what I lived through in this state with Casey Anthony, and this guy is found guilty, there's going to be a lot of people still convinced he's innocent. If he is found innocent, there's going to be a lot convinced he got away with murder, so you can't change all of that. And people have very, very heavy feelings about Casey Anthony. I do too. I don't think the girl was innocent of anything. I think her attorney did his job, and I knew she was going to walk. Unfortunately, I could tell during the trial. We'll see how it plays out with this Brian Kohberger stuff, but it's a totally different case as well. Casey's was all circumstantial. They didn't find any of her DNA on her child. Not even the little supposed heart-shaped sticker that was there. None of that contained Casey's DNA. Just like Richard Allen's DNA was never discovered at the Delphi crime scene. But we have Kohberger's DNA at the crime scene. So there's the difference right there. Yeah, Letitia was the suitcase lady, and she dropped that baby off here in my hometown right off the side of the bridge, not far from my house. I pass his memorial all the time. I can't stand her. I can't stand her. I wish I had been crossing that bridge that night at midnight and saw that big U-Haul and saw what she was doing, because she would have went off that bridge right along with him. I promise you that. Good thing there was GPS in that U-Haul and she didn't realize it, because it tracked her all the way to the bridge. And then she turned around, she crossed the bridge, she turned around, went back across the second bridge to get back over into Pensacola, and then went down the road and got her a little hotel room for the night. I know exactly where she stayed. And I really wish that I had been out there that night. But I was at home in bed. So Letitia can rot in jail for the rest of her natural life, right? Just like Stefan Stearns can. All these damn people harming babies. It's not cool at all. Let's see. I think I'm going to call it a day, guys. I've got my son got up this morning and he put a pot roast in the crock pot, and that shit's smelling so good. He loves to make pot roast, and these little baby pearl onions in it and stuff like that. So they'll all be coming home here in a little bit, and I got a few things around the house I want to get done. I appreciate you guys coming in. I am working on some different Kohberger stuff to bring out. We're going to look at some more documents. We're waiting on that transcript to come out too from the closed hearing that the judge said he was going to release.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm waiting on that to drop so we can do a read of it. So as soon as that stuff does come down, we'll get it out there to you. And we're going to keep following up on the Reed case and the Birchmore case. Because I'm moving past Delphi. I've got nothing else to say about them. I can't with them anymore. It's out of our hands. There are enough people out there still keeping that story alive and well. Joe and I, we are going to do
I'll keep you updated on it. You can let it go.
I see the updates. I mean, just because I won't be personally covering it doesn't mean I don't see the updates on Twitter. You can't help but not see them. You can't help but not see them. And I know we were going to do the Holman thing again, and I'm fine with that. I'm just rehashing all of the things anymore. It's not doing me any good anymore. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I've got too many other cases I want to follow up here, like people did with Idaho. That's why I like to bounce around between different cases. I get bored. If I get bored, things get dangerous for me. I will be finding things to unboard myself with, and I can't get bored.
I get frustrated. I get frustrated with a freaking ridiculous judge and a ridiculous prosecutor that gets coddled by the judge. That's what I get. I get frustrated.
We all do. We all did. So let the appeals process begin. Like I said, when things like start coming down with that, then maybe I'll pick it back up again, and if there's anything interesting that comes down in filings, maybe, but I can cover those things. But to sit around and rehash.
But you're gonna do the Jerry Holman rewatch party with me, though, right?
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, but as far as all the other stuff, they're not listening to me.
No, they're not. They're not listening to you. They're not listening to me. They're not listening to Sleuthy Goosey.
No, and they're not
listening to Bob. Yeah. No.
All I can do is bring the latest in the current cases we're watching. And Delphi is not a current case anymore. It is going to be an appellate case. And when that process begins, then maybe I'll go back to covering it again. I watched somebody that I was trying to give a chance. Firefly, I'll let you know later about this. But I was trying to give somebody a chance, and I'll be damned if they didn't lose their shit over the past 2 days over Delphi again. And I'm like, man, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not arguing with people on the internet. I don't care. Y'all go do you. Let it eat you alive if you damn well want to. Enough stuff in my lifetime has tried to eat me alive, and that's not going to do it. True crime ain't going to do it. You know what I mean? So just like Koberger in this case ain't going to eat me alive. I'm going to come out and talk about it honestly as we can, you know. And I appreciate everybody's input on it and the different things, because there is a lot to try to figure out with it, and we'll just see where it all goes. Jeff, thanks for coming in. We appreciate you. Forrest, thanks again for always being here and being our mod. And V, you're always welcome. I love your comments. You crack me up when I need it, so I appreciate that. I'll look over and I'll see a comment by V, and I'm on mute and I'm laughing so hard. I'm like, girl. But I appreciate you guys for coming in and joining me today. Don't know what time I'll be live. Probably in the morning. Joe, are you going to go live in the morning? Or are you taking
I went live this morning. It's your turn next.
Yeah, I might be coming live every damn day anymore. I don't know. It depends on when. Like I said, I'm going to start going live when I feel like it. And if something pops off and we need to discuss it, we'll get on here and discuss it, you know. What? You'd have opened up a can of whoop ass on her, Salty. Dude, don't get me started. Pokemon, thanks for being here. You are always pulling double duty. You're not only just my mod, you mod for Publicly Buzzed. You're a mod over there at aren't you a mod for Defense Diaries as well?
Oh yeah. That chat the other night was crazy. That was off the hook.
Thank you guys. You all have a great day. We'll bring more out as we can, and we're going to try to put together some really good shows and content around these cases that we're covering. So we'll get back on it as soon as we can, and I'll get some more information on this Karen Read stuff. And like I said, we'll follow these cases as they move forward. So with that said, everyone, thank you for being here, and thank you to my co-hosts for all coming up here and hanging out with us today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Salty. Good to be here. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
See y'all later.
Thank you all for watching this here video. Please like it.